No, you don't have to say those words again. Oh no, and you don't have to. No, you don't have to go and explain yourself, 'cause I ain't gonna listen. Yeah, all you wanted was a souvenir to remember it all. Yeah, you tore it apart, down to every last piece. Yeah, a souvenir, another story to tell. And I gotta know how to find happiness in the wrong place, 'cause it never ends. It's there in all ways, it's evident. You never change for our sake. Baby, I can't just say we're falling now. Your little black book ran out of pages. Just take it, baby, just say it. No, you don't have to say those words again. You don't have to. No, you don't have to go and explain yourself, 'cause I ain't gonna listen. Yeah, all you wanted was a souvenir to remember the fall, to go and tell your friends you were there for it all. A souvenir, just a little postcard for the road. And I just gotta know how to find happiness in the wrong place, 'cause it never ends. It's there in all ways, it's evident. You never change for our sake. We're falling now. Your little black book ran out of pages. 'Cause if you're gonna take it all, baby, don't waste it. You only want it if you know you're gonna break it. Just another souvenir for the taking. Just take it, baby, just take it. Just another souvenir for the road. That's the way it goes. Just take it, baby, just take it.
Reaching out, and my heart is with you. So much in between, things we've never seen. You're a mirage that my mind can't see through. Are you here with me? One day we can see. And all my life, unbroken ways, but I know that time makes ways. But I know that time makes ways. And all my life, unbroken ways, but I know that time makes ways. But I know that time makes ways. Yeah, I know that time makes ways. All my life, unbroken
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Austin, Texas, and the Circuit of the Americas for tonight's running of the FTF Grand National Series presented by Bar Visuals. Glad to have you with us for what should be a very unique night here in FTF competition for the Motorsports Drop 200K, the first of the mini-series for the Motorsports Drop 200K. This will be the first of a little mini-series that is going on amongst many other things tonight, but we'll go ahead and welcome you in. I'm Blake McCandless, joined alongside by Justin Prince as well as Zach Johnson down in the virtual production trailer. And Justin, we've seen it unfold before our eyes in the real world today, and it's now time to do it in the virtual world to see how the Circuit of Americas treats FTF competition.
It's not an easy racetrack, to say the very least, first of all, because this is a track with multiple passing opportunities, but several different danger spots. It's one where you're going to have to battle the track limits. You're going to have to battle the weight shifting of these cars around this racetrack. It's not going to be an easy day, to say the very least, Blake. But it's going to be one that will be full of entertainment, especially in the mid-pack, to see how these drivers and their preparation has come out to be for tonight. It's going to be an intriguing race overall.
That is certainly the case when you talk about preparation. I think of so many of these drivers, many of whom are very familiar at road courses. Of course, a couple of weeks ago, we tackled the road course at Daytona. You saw many of the same favorites that we've come to know in FTF competition really rise and shine in that type of environment. When they get to where they're making lefts, they're making right turns, they are strong. And I think we're going to see a lot of those drivers reign supreme tonight as well. But like you said, this racetrack so unique in how it is delivered. I know you could pretty much listen to anybody that was in NASCAR today, and they pretty much liken it to, they took every road course we have on the schedule and combined all little aspects of each one of them, and that makes up the Circuit of the Americas. And that's why that preparation, getting laps on this track, is key to success tonight.
And keep in mind, this track was originally designed to host Formula One Grand Prix, as well as many different events such as IndyCar in the past. It's hosted MotoGP events, and now gets the chance to host NASCAR in the real world. It's going to be an entertaining race, I think, to see how the drivers fare, especially with the elevation changes in particular in some of these segments. It's going to be very critical here at this facility, because drivers in turn one are going to be really charging the way into the corners. Absolutely.
It certainly did, and of course we saw it Tuesday night. It was really the beginning of a week-long adventure at this road course. The NASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series was really the first series, real or virtual, to tackle this racetrack, and we saw the absolute chaos that happened in Turn 1, which obviously we could take a look at the track map here at Circuit of the Americas, and an outline that was made on a napkin when it was first conceived over dinner, and this is what they came up with. Obviously a combination of some turns around some of the most famous circuits in the world, and perhaps none other than Turn 1 is one of the most treacherous spots we saw. We saw absolute chaos there, a big stack up, and you know, with restarts and the way they happen and cold tires getting up to climbing about 133 stories out there to Turn 1, Justin, it makes it really tough for these drivers to get slowed down, and very easy corner to overshoot despite the fact that you have that much of an elevation change.
In the real world as well, they were going 3-4 wide into that first corner off some of the starts and restarts, and it could be a spot where drivers could have damage. But as well, I think you have to keep an eye on the run up to the arena section, because it's so easy to loop it around in that part of the racetrack, but also because there's so much pavement for drivers to run off and try and build up some speed. So we'll have to see how things play out. Keep in mind as well, these drivers also have Made Madness to focus on, Blake, where things are getting competitive, especially for a couple different drivers.
It really is. As we look at the Made Madness bracket here at FTF competition, you see it right there. A couple of battles already being decided after qualifying today. Nate Stewart going to move on over Sean Butler. Jordan Worth not able to start the race tonight, so Lucas Plosel, he'll move into the final four. As well as you look at the top of your charts, we have seen David Walsh come out a couple of times, and he was awfully competitive, gave Blake Reynolds a good run for his money, but is not going to be able to make it out tonight. So that's three of the final four predetermined. The one matchup we're looking for tonight is Andrew Schwartz and Ethan Corder in that battle to get to the final four. But that's enough for the Made Madness. Let's go ahead and take a look at the starting grid, as it looks like at the top of the board, no surprise here, Blake Reynolds, who won back at Daytona, very strong on these road courses, Justin. He takes the top spot. Jordy Lopez Jr. in second, Christian Peterson third. Alex Kolinix will start in fourth with Jonathan Oates in fifth. Nate Stewart will roll off in sixth. He likes these road courses, as well as Will Norton in seventh. Ethan Corder in eighth. Nathan Rabideau starts ninth, and Joe Berge will round out the top 10.
Relatively deep qualifying run for Matt Danton, 11th spot on the board. Keeping my eye on drivers like Jacob Fisher in 14th as well. Matthews Wack also in 17th.
And that's all the time we have for a unique standing start for this race. No wait, no pacing around, and we're going to get right to it in turn one here. Let's see how they can make it through. Looks like for the first couple of cars, so good, but a bit of 3 and 4 wide stacking up, as it looks like a little bit contact is made further back in the field, but they're all able to make it through. Again, 46 cars started this race, a couple making their way through pit road, and we'll see if they can get through the S's.
And this is a section where drivers have been testing the limitations of where they can run for tonight, especially with the Turtles. It's going to be tough as one driver spins in the heart of the pack. It's the 00, I believe, that goes around in the field. Jake Poulin from 20th position. The rest of the field nice and smooth as they make their way through Sector 2.
And I see another car around. Gian Eschu went off, but it's the 036 of David Cabrera, who has spun just before getting into turn 6 as they move, or excuse me, that is out of turn 9. So the 036 gets spun around. More chaos in front of them. Big braking zone here. We saw this in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series in turn 11. They're able to smoke it up, but scurry away, and again, everybody just trying to get a couple laps under them before making 2 desperate challenges.
And keep in mind, this field filled with competitive drivers that did not qualify well at all. Omar Diallo has been running a ton of open action and fixed action here at this racetrack. He started 34th. Josh Parker, someone that's very well known in sim racing community circles, 33rd starting position. Adam Sweet, 43rd starting position. So many different competitors starting very deep here, but this is all while Blake Reynolds continues to lead his way to the racetrack, as the caution will now come out for an incident in Sector 3.
And we knew that this could happen. The potential for a full course caution should it create a situation. Obviously, here at these road courses, there's a lot of runoff here, particularly at this racetrack, for them to safely navigate through some corners. But this could happen if we needed it. And so we have a full course caution here. The first of the race here is the safety car is going to come off of pit road and pick up Blake Reynolds here, as he was not able to get quite back to the stripe before completing lap number 1. It looks like the 18 of Omar Diallo, or 018 rather, may have been wrapped up in that, as he loses the front clip entirely on his race car.
And because it's a big track, these drivers have to make an effort to fix any missing body parts on the race cars for tonight. But with the bar visuals replay, I think the best thing that's going to visualize what happened is they were 3 wide into the corner. Justin Malillo diamond the corner 3 lanes down after trying to pass by Williams, and came right across the nose of the 018 and caused that stack up. You also had Kyle Lawrence Short get involved. Jonathan Palmieri went all the way nearly into the tire barriers trying to avoid all the carnage.
Well, this is something, it's almost a mirror image, not in the exact same corner, but it's a discussion that I remember Bubba Wallace having on the NASCAR Xfinity Series broadcast a little bit earlier about Riley Herbst, that this early in the run, obviously Melillo goes out wide, tries to arc back down and get that run off the corner. It's very early, and if you're in heavy traffic, that is a very risky move. Unfortunately, just don't think he was aware that Diallo, who started in the back of the field but is awfully strong on these road courses as well, he was down there as they were making their way through those corners and spun him around. And, of course, with the 53 and the 018 parked in the middle of the racetrack, created a situation in which they decided to throw a full course caution. It looks like Kyle Short may have gotten some damage in that as well. We saw Ryan Williams scatter around. Believe that one car hit the barrier, avoiding it, went off into the gravel area. That was Jonathan Palmieri, who made his way through that. So this is what will create an interesting scenario, Justin. I think at the Daytona Road Course, we showcased that if we can get just one, maybe two laps under the green flag, that there will be enough separation that we won't have to worry about a track blocking situation. But of course, when we stack them up, that only makes the odds of a caution coming out be a little bit higher.
Yeah, I was talking with some of the drivers for the eNASCAR COTA iRacing Series event in preparation for that, and one of the main things they emphasized is they expected things to spread out past that first lap in that respective race, which they in turn, in a lot of cases, did after the carnage of lap 1, turn 1. So it's going to be where the strategy is now going to come into play, because there is right now only cautions with cause from here on out has just been emphasized from race control, Blake, because the plan was either a competition caution at lap 15 or this caution flag period if there's an incident on the first lap. And we got that first caution to start off this race. Now it's the matter of how these drivers settle on down here, because the consequence, you get a lot of time to consider how to plot things out from this point forward under the pace laps.
And with this pacing around, you will be able to make it to the end of the race, I imagine, on just one stop. I think that was the case going in. It's why the race length was set at 36 laps, which, mind you, is a pretty lengthy race when you really think about it. These guys are going to be running about 2 minute 10-second, anywhere between 2:10 and 2:15 per lap, or I guess if we want to do the math real quick, about 135 seconds or so per lap. So it's going to be a lengthy race. It's going to take some time, but with that, the strategy is going to be pretty straightforward. Pretty much going to have to take one trip down pit road, assuming we see this thing green to the end, of course, with the potential for more cautions. Everything can always happen, and we can have more strategy come into play. And of course, at this road course, you have to think, if we do have that competition caution that is on the horizon, who's to say you can't short pit that, try to gain some track position, as we saw a couple of drivers do just at Daytona. So that will be the competition, or actually, yes, this caution will be that competition yellow, so we don't have to worry about that. But nevertheless, could have more cautions come up in the future as well if the situation warrants itself.
Indeed, and keep in mind as well, it is an early morning race in sim for these competitors. It is just past 8:30 in sim, which means it is very cool out. Just 72 degrees is the track temp, 71 degrees the air temp Fahrenheit. That's 22 degrees Celsius for retrospect, which means there's going to be a lot of grip around this racetrack, but also potential for quick speeds means potential for tire spin coming out the corners, for potential for drivers missing the corner apexes and entries, trying to send it a little bit deeper with the amount of grip around this racetrack. So all that's going to be very critical for these competitors.
Going to be very important, especially with the car that drives so much different. I know I've done a handful of laps. I've done a lot of laps especially in the Cup car, not so much in the Xfinity car here, but there is a pretty significant difference in what each car is capable of. For example, the trucks roll very well through the S's with fixed setup racing, and in the Cup car, you're not really getting the same amount of turn through this section of the track that you can see in this onboard right here. You're not turning as well. The Xfinity car seems like it has a little more grip in the nose of the car, can rotate a little bit better, and of course, like you mentioned, big difference in what these guys are used to with, like you mentioned, early in sim time, very cool temperatures, only a 73-degree track, which is much cooler than what these drivers were likely testing in, preparing in, not only in fixed racing on the service this week, but even or at least Blake Reynolds, the Coke driver that's out here in the field tonight, would have been in a much hotter track temperature to prepare for. So a lot of grip comparatively to what we typically see here on the iRacing service. And even you heard a couple of drivers in the Pro Invitational mention it. Seems to be in iRacing not quite the same amount of rear grip. You're definitely having to save those rear tires, as we know anytime you come to a road course, very important. And those cooler temperatures should help with that a little bit.
Yeah, we'll have to see how things play out, absolutely, as keep in mind these drivers ready to double them up for the restart coming up here. Give a shout out to Jordi Lopez Jr. A really good performance in the eNASCAR Road to Pro qualifying iRacing series, coming away with the podium finish at Charlotte Motor Speedway. That organization had a lot of speed and had a good shot to try and take home the checker flag in that respective series before trouble in the closing stages started to fare things out. They had good short run pace. So Jordi Lopez Jr. coming with momentum from that on Thursday. Curious if he can keep the momentum up here today to keep up with Blake.
We'll see if he can. I know someone else who got a podium at Charlotte in the Road to Pro series, and hopefully they can keep that momentum rolling in whatever direction they so choose it, as it's going to be Reynolds and Lopez Jr. up here. Nate Stewart was able to make up a couple of spots there at the beginning of the race. Started in 6th, was able to make a couple moves getting into turn 1, was that 13 Toyota. So he has moved his way quickly up into 4th. And Nate Stewart, a guy that we don't get to talk about too often, mainly a short track guy, but short track, flat track, whatever you want to call it, but especially these road courses, he's very vocal about it. He loves coming to these road courses, and has obviously carried a lot of speed in here tonight. We'll see if maybe he has something for these guys heading into turn 1.
We'll have to see. It takes a lot of confidence to be able to try and break in, but we'll have to see how things play out for these respective competitors as we're just about ready to go back green. It's going to be a very competitive start, I think, when these cars get rolling, and I'm very curious to see how drivers like Danson send it in from row 4.
Very interested to see how this works. Again, this is an awkward start if you're further back in the field, because you're going to be exiting turn 20, as Reynolds going to get a very early jump on this field. He's going to try to avoid as much chaos as possible heading into turn 1, but let's see if we have more in store as they get on the brakes. Looks like the 022 looked high of Nate Stewart, but up front, so far, so clean as they're able to get through turn 1. Further back in the field, Ryan Naraki with the lockup as they go 3 wide. They go 4 wide back there for just a moment, but it looks like for the most part they scatter away. This is what's difficult. You scatter, you're 3 wide, you're 4 wide. You almost have to get single file by the time you reach these S's, and it looks like they did a pretty good job of that.
Yes, indeed, they have so far, as Blake Reynolds doing a very solid job keeping things in check for Jordi Lopez. Lopez, though, I think wants to try and make a move, but the difficult part is getting enough of momentum to be able to make the pass. It takes a lot of ability under the brakes to close in, and right now you can see they are near lockstep in terms of how they are approaching these corners. Near contact amongst the teammates as some of the drivers starting to send it in. That's Will Norton that tried to send it in.
A lot of guys sending it into turn 11. Again, that was the second trouble spot that we saw on Tuesday night. So far, so good as we go down this long back straightaway, carrying a ton of speed into a massive braking zone in turn 12. They're really going to stack them up here. You can see how close they approach each other. Stewart nearly into the back of the car in front of him. That's Christian Peterson. The two like-minded VRS Logitech Altus Esports machines running second and third, Stort and fourth. Alex Kolinick's almost ran wide in turn one, but he settled nicely there in the fifth position.
Yeah, it's been a surprisingly solid day so far for him. Was very quick in practice, top 5 in the practice charts, top 4 in qualifying. Able to get himself back up to 5th with the restart. Right now, just keeping things nice and settled in. And one of the things to keep in mind is, especially for drivers such as him, is just trying to keep the tires underneath you. Don't overcook your equipment trying to battle around this racetrack, because the fall off is expected to be fairly big for some of these competitors today. And so far, these drivers now setting their fastest lap times now fully up to speed for the first time.
They're able to do that. One battle I was looking at, it was right behind these race leaders, was Jonathan Oates and Will Norton, who had a nice little battle. They made a little bit of contact as they were working towards turn 16 over that last lap, but Norton, somebody that is obviously very competitive on these road courses as well, has done a fair amount of fixed racing this week on these courses in preparation for this race, and he and Oates running nose to tail really all the way through about the top 6. There's not a lot of separation. Reynolds obviously is the leader. He was able to get away, but not as much as I'm sure he would have liked. There's still a fair amount of not a lot of separation, as I'm sure he would have liked to see, as you see Oates and Norton real close right here in a battle for 5th. Right in front of them is Alex Kolinick.
And Oates, I think, is trying to take a look to the inside, possibly thought about trying to send it in. And I think Alex has given him a little bit of space, knowing that if he pinched on down, there's the chance for that bit of contact across the quarter panel. Just seems to be struggling a little bit in Sector 1 compared to the other sections of the racetrack. Jonathan Oates is very confident in that part of the racetrack. This is where Alex seems to be more confident, though, when single file. As here comes the send.
Up the inside, making the move is Jonathan Oates. He's able to make that successfully in what is likely one of the best passing opportunities at this racetrack into turn 12. Almost contact made, though, as they go through 13. That's going to stack him up. Norton nearly going to get in the back of Kolinick's. Lock up there from Oates. He's able to go wide, and this is what you're going to see. Passes made. You're always afraid of what that guy behind you or next to you is going to do. This is a really tough section of the racetrack to go side by side through 17, through 18 now, still side by side. Kolinick's going to have the inside as they work into 19. Norton locks it up, goes wide. He's into the grass, off into the gravel. He was looking at this battle, didn't want to hit anybody. He goes wide, will lose 3 or 4 spots, but now Kolinick's able to make the move by and hold on for 5th.
I think Norton just missed his braking mark. They're just trying to follow along with that battle, and that's going to really hurt him. But great defense from the 222 machine. But keep in mind as well, when it comes to this circuit, that these competitors are not going to have an easy time if they run side by side like that, because it can cost you so much time here at this racetrack. If you want to get the pass done, you need to get it done quickly. Guess who's now within the mix now with these drivers, though? Matt Danson already up 4 positions.
Danson has made his way up nicely. He's trying to chase down the race leader. Healthy little battle here going on. Back for 14th, though. Jack Painter, Keith Sherman, and Arnold Columbia leading about a line of 4 or 5 cars that had a really tough battle into turn 1. Arnold Columbia, or believe it was him, may have been another driver, that a lot of smoke, big lockup as they went into turn number 1. And this is largely what we're going to see throughout the evening, Justin. There's a big difference in the pace that a lot of these drivers are running. But within the field, you're going to see these 2, 3, 4-car battles. And this is a racetrack, particularly here in these stock cars, it lends itself to leaning on each other, maybe a little bit of contact. There's a lot of crossovers. Big contact, as that is Columbia right into the back in another tough braking zone. In turn 11, that was Tyler Gary, and yes, Arnold Columbia right there. Big contact there for Arnold Columbia.
Yeah, that could have been much worse in that regard. With the front nose damage, got to keep an eye on those temperatures as a result of said contact. But Tyler Gary now jumps his way up a couple positions. He is among your biggest movers overall, up 23 spots. What a drive for Gary.
Gary has made quick work of many of these drivers, as obviously you had the lap 1 caution, but Gary just making it look easy here, making his way by. And again, this is what you're going to see. A lot of drivers, perhaps they ran off course, which disallows your lap time in iRacing, or perhaps something went amiss where maybe you just wanted the challenge of racing up through the field. So you're going to have a couple of drivers like Gary who may possess a little more pace than some drivers in front of him, and you'll see them very quickly kind of work away and pull away from the field. As this battle behind him, Jack Painter and Arnold Columbia still going on. Columbia, big send up the bottom. It looks like Painter's going to give it to him. Painter's going to lose another spot behind him. That's Matthews Wack who comes on through as they work down the front straightaway.
And I'm wondering if that damage now to the back end is going to affect that rear grip now for Painter, as Columbia really having to slow down, and back up may have had a slowdown to serve as he started to slow down to make it 3 wide behind.
Oh, tight quarters here at the Circuit of the Americas as Evan Rice there going to try to make his way up. He has the outside here as they begin their trek through the S's. This is a really tough portion to be side by side, and he is able to make a brilliant move right there. Gets by Ben Horst, has that preferred position to be able to go through the S's. Very, very hard to get side by side there, so Horst will back it up and try it again. Evan Rice, another driver, he's up 14 spots since the drop of the green flag, but a lot of good racing going on here at the Circuit of the Americas. And you know, we've been showing you a lot of battles throughout the field. It has not really cooled down up front. Reynolds and Jordy Lopez, not a whole lot of separation between those 3 drivers. Your top 3 separated by only just a couple tenths of a second. So we saw Blake Reynolds drive away earlier at Daytona. It didn't take him very long to do it, but right now Lopez and his teammate and Christian Peterson hanging tough there with the driver of the 62.
Even more so in the first sector. In the second sector is where Jordy Lopez Jr. has the major issues when it comes to keeping up with Reynolds. Sector 3 is where they even out a little bit. So it seems like the comfortability is there for Reynolds in the second half of the lap more so than Lopez Jr., and that may benefit him as this race goes on. That's why there's the bit of the distance of a few car lengths, because of that second sector pullway. So they've been trading lap times. That's the key thing. It's just a matter of keeping them within arm's reach, because we may see strategies start to come into play. Keep in mind, as we talked about a one-stopper, it's going to be interesting when drivers elect to come down for that one respective stop.
And there's a lot of different strategies that you can come into play. I know crew chiefing with James Davison in the eNASCAR Pro Invitational Series on Wednesday night. It was one of those things you kind of just have to play it by ear. You won't really know until you get there. Assuming this goes green all the way, if Reynolds is able to stretch out a little bit of a gap, it seems like you just want to go as long as possible without the threat of losing the lead. Nice little battle going on here as they work up through the S's. The Space Station Gaming machine able to get by the Red Bull machine. That is Jacob Fisher able to make his way by Joe Berge as Fisher moving up a couple of spots since the drop of the green flag. He moves up into 11th position. But to go back to the point about that strategy is it depends on the battle that you're in. We'll see a little bit more separation. These guys will be right on top of each other. It seems like you want to wait as long as possible in respect to your competitors who are directly around you to use those tires to your advantage. When Davison was leading, we had about a 7 or 8 second lead on Alfredo. Elected to come down about 2 laps before the 38 came down. Was able to open up about 7 seconds because of that. Now, of course, the 38 ran the 15 back down, but it only came to a certain point. After about 4 or 5 laps, it evened off right there. We'll see about 8 laps of fall off, and then after that, the times will pretty much even out after that. So when these drivers pit, largely a type of thing where you just don't want to pit before somebody that you're in a close battle with. And this battle between Fisher and Berge still going on.
Yeah, Berge has been able to keep on with this despite hitting some of the turtles as well, as now he gets shuffled back. Once more, this is to 11th position for Fisher, as Fisher now drifts it around the corner. And this is going to lose him the time right on back. He is leaning right on that right rear tire.
He certainly is, and again, that's something you don't want to do. It is very easy to lose that rear grip here, and once it is gone, good luck in getting it back, and we'll see another big move right here. Oh, they nearly make contact in turn 20, but get the drive off to Jacob Fisher. Now, this is one of those things when you're in a battle with somebody, you're able to pull away. Do you try a last-ditch effort here in turn 1? Because you can kind of spook that driver that's in front. We'll see what the 94 is going to do defensively here. He's able to get through pretty clean, and you see the driver behind hops that curb. That's going to cost him a little bit of time, and through the S's, Fisher may be able to build up the separation he needs to set his eyes forward and try to crack the top 10.
Yeah, we'll have to see how much Fisher can push his way through these S's. He seems to be getting through them nice and smoothly. Rabideau seems to be struggling a little bit to try and get the car to rotate for parts of these S's. But as we've seen, the drivers who seem to struggle in this section of the racetrack seem to be very successful still in Sector 2. We'll have to wait and see as Fisher has a bit of a run to try and build up the speed.
We'll see if he can do that for 10th, but man, they almost wrecked here in the S's. This battle, this is a heck of a battle. Just cars everywhere here for 28th. I know it's a little bit further back in the field, but they nearly all got together. About 5 or 6 cars you see on your screen right there. Warren Rosario, Ryan Naraki, Gary Waterworth, all just running right under a blanket. This is the best battling that we're seeing on the racetrack as they head off into turn 11 just before the long back straightaway. A couple of these guys have had trouble locking up the last couple of turns. You see Naraki using all of that racetrack here. That little bit of a runoff area, kind of the patch right there, is a little bit of grip. It's worth a little bit of time, but obviously here in iRacing you get an off track if you put 2 tires on that portion of the racetrack. So here comes Gary Waterworth up into turn 12. Big braking zone here, going to have the preferred line through. Naraki going to go very wide off the corner, but he's not going to lose the inside line as they work into this long sweeping of right-hand corners in turn 16 and 17.
Yeah, these drivers really utilizing a lot of that pavement as much as they can with how wide this surface is, as a dive right from behind from the 036 there, trying to dive his way to make it 3 wide with Waterworth and Cowden.
Big moves being made here, and again, this is the type of action we've seen here at COTA. Oh, a slide out of Cowden there on the inside. He was able to save it, but not doing his rear tires any favors. Has the outside here in turn 19. Waterworth going to give him the spot. Not a great runoff there for Waterworth, so give it to Cowden with the advantage, but here comes David Cabrera here. Big lock up in front of them from Naraki. Cowden reacts to that. He's off the course. He's going to lose a couple of spots, so Cowden held them off, made a mistake there in turn 20. Going to give up a couple of spots here down the front straightaway, but this battle's not over as they head to turn 1.
Yeah, this is incredible. These drivers, yes, they may be 46 seconds back of the race lead. They are all in that buffer of skill level that a lot of them are newer to road course racing or don't have as much experience on the road courses, but in turn, they're all even when it comes to their pace. To say the very least, tempers are flaring, more contact.
And Cowden going to let them by, as I believe that was contact with Ryan Williams, or no, Jake Poulin, excuse me, is the other Hellman's machine right there. He goes off in the S's, but as a result of the contact, don't think that that'll be anything that is penalized here later on. Adam Sweet looking to the inside here in turn 10. This is a really tight zone to try to make a pass. Really tricky downhill area where you're still on throttle. You're trying to keep that rear grip. He's able to stick it up the inside and now is going to have it in turn 11. Crossover coming though. This is what makes turn 11 so hard though. You get that run and Cabrera going to try the crossover here. They're side drafting down the back straightaway and Cabrera's going to have that preferred line as they're nearly touching doors as they head off into turn 12.
Well, and Cabrera taking things a little bit differently in terms of his braking line a little bit earlier, but also different in terms of how he went through the gears there to be able to keep that preferred line for the first part of the arena section. But Sweet keeping things aggressive here to keep it side by side here. It looks like Sweet not going to give this up easily, and Cabrera not going to back off easily as there's another major lockup.
Big lockup there, and you see they're able to scatter away from it. Naraki and those two still battling tough, and it's hard to look away from these battles. Again, this is all the way back in a battle that is well outside the top 20, but don't tell these guys that. They're going to race for everything that they're worth right now. Andrew Schwartz running in the 33rd position. You see him in that green subway machine as he tries to make a move and is going to be able to make it work. Big move there from Andrew Schwartz, the inside of Adam Sweet, to move up a couple of spots. Now, Lucas Plosel, again, this is our only Made Madness battle, as, Schwartz is going to get blocked into turn 1. Schwartz going to have to go up the middle as Cabrera made the move. And we'll see how Schwartz exits turn 1. Able to get off there pretty smooth. He's going to have the outside. Nearly going to get run out there as they enter the S's, but Schwartz going to have to rebound here, try to probably save up for a move in turn 10 or turn 11.
It's been really interesting for David Cabrera so far to follow along with this, to be that aggressive. It's very bold. Andrew Schwartz, by the way, came in tonight with the most points by just 3 over Sean Butler. Rabideau about 25 plus points behind entering tonight, 21 to be precise. So Schwartz right now potentially could lose a bit of ground compared to some of his competitors, as he's got the swap though, got the better run coming out of the S's.
Again, he's going to utilize the bottom there in that hard section rather, to try to get it done. And now Schwartz going to try to use that crossover off of turn 11, use that draft down the back straightaway. He has a little bit of draft in front of him, and Cabrera just using him up. Nearly contact, they touch as they work uphill down this back straightaway. Schwartz is going to have the inside line here. And the way Cabrera has been racing these guys, he's been very aggressive, blocking, defending. I have to imagine that Schwartz, after a while here, is going to be able to use them up at some point. They go side by side. They're going to work into 13 right here. Schwartz going to try the outside, lock up in front of them. That's Ryan Naraki and Gary Waterworth. But Schwartz going to try to hang there just to have enough to try and get into 15 with the inside line, and he's going to be able to do it. But still a nice runoff there. Cabrera hanging tough.
Yeah, not giving up very easily at all whatsoever. But, by the way, your battle for the race lead, to give reference, is shrinking as well. Reynolds has started to fall off the past few laps as well. So, eventually, these drivers are going to breach race lead traffic. In fact, they passed by Robert Dorman, who stopped to the side of the racetrack.
Yeah, Dorman pulling over to try and let these guys race it out amongst themselves. We've had some changes up here in the top 5 as well. Nate Stewart losing a little bit of grip in that 13 machine. He was battling up in the top 4. He's fallen to 5th and may fall into the clutches of 6th place. Jonathan Oates here in a couple of laps. Seems like the rear grip's starting to fade just a little bit on that number 13 machine. Christian Peterson has lost them as Dorman, a big lockup again in front of some of our leaders as they're going to go low to avoid Dorman, who is the first car that is still on the racetrack to go a lap down. Justin Malillo has yet to do so, but we've also had a couple of cars pull off and call it a day. Spencer Ray, Omar Diallo, Josh Parker, and Wyatt Tinsley have all gone to the garage, but still 41 cars running on track, and we're only 11 laps in, really about just 7 or 8 laps into this green flag stint. But again, with the wide spread of times here, Justin, getting through lap traffic, it's going to be something that's pretty important. Just ask James Davison on Clint Boyer the other night.
Yeah, that was an intriguing situation, let's put it that way, from that event. But you're going to need to be aware of what's going on if you're a lapped car, first of all, because this is a racetrack where, yes, there's a lot of space, but it's so easy to get involved in incidents because you have that illusion of, okay, they'll just go right beside me and drive on by. It's not quite as simple as that, because you try and go side by side of the wrong segment, you lose a ton of time here. This is just the nature of the racetrack. So you have to be able to find those perfect spots. As the race leaders, you need to find that patience level to be able to pass on by, as Justin Malillo goes all the way into the runoff area into the grass to let by the race leaders. Not the most efficient way to do it, but it's a way to do it. To get back to the point, though, you need to be aware that if you're over aggressive with the lap traffic, especially if you get to the mix that is the gaggle of 28th on back, that's where, if you do it the wrong way, it can get chaotic. You do not want things to get overly chaotic, to say the very least. And you need to think big picture when it goes to getting through the traffic to know that you need to have a clean race car. You get significant damage here, you risk potentially losing parts of your car, and it can hurt you in the long run. So all of that has to come into face and come into mind when it comes to navigating the traffic here at this racetrack, even with how wide the surface is.
No, it is certainly that case. And as we look at our top two, they've pretty much set sail from the rest of the field. So they're having their own battle at the moment. There's still a nice battle going back here for 29th as Naraki fell back. And that's what I love about this racetrack is there's just so much action going on here that we can kind of jump back and forth between what's happening in the race lead and what's happening back here for 29th. There was a big lockup. David Cabrera has lost a couple of spots since we last picked up this battle. He's all the way. Again, this is for 30th. These guys are racing hard here at the back of the field, and really for about 15 spots here, these guys really only separated by about 2 seconds.
Yeah, that giggle is going to be really intriguing when the leaders get there. Let's put it that way. But Cabrera is definitely wanting to scratch tooth and nail just to show what he can do. Because, if I read correctly, first start of the season, I believe, for Cabrera. So, trying to show what he can do, try and build respect from fellow competitors. And that's one of the main things, too, with FTF competition. Is drivers will be known to race hard and fight for every position because you never know how these points can line up at the end of the campaign.
Every point gonna matter, and of course for those that not racing for points, they just want the pride of winning here at the Circuit of the Americas. So as we go around, we are right now on lap number 14 of 36 here tonight, so still a long way to go here, but we're gonna go side by side, and you won't miss a minute of it as we continue our coverage here of the FTF Grand National Series presented by Bar Visuals, live on STN.
We've been waiting for this moment. Generations of innovation all coming together in one place. A pedigree of more than 70 years of NASCAR Cup Series history, from the past to the present, from Petty to Earnhardt to Elliott. Today, there's no more waiting. The future of NASCAR is now. Drive the next-gen cars today on iRacing and step into the next generation of racing.
With you here for coverage of the FTF Grand National Series presented by Bar Visuals. It is not the first time that we have visited a road course, and it's not the first time that in that road course race you see the 62 Toyota of Blake Reynolds leading this field. Jordi Lopez has been close in tow, has remained within about a second and a half of our race leader since the drop of the green flag, and it looked like, Justin, for the last couple of laps, Lopez had been running him down, but Reynolds has put down some really, really solid laps these last few trips around and has kind of opened up that lead. It was within about 6 or 7 tenths of a second, and he's stretched it out to about a second here these last few trips around the course.
Well, it helps when you gained 6 tenths last time by to be able to build up a distance, and this is going to be important. It's just building up that buffer to make sure you don't lose a lot of time. The thing is for Lopez Jr. is he's been really starting to push on corner exit. He is struggling under the brakes into 16, having to use a lot of that runoff area. Reynolds, he's been able to save the tires and keep things smooth and consistent on the brakes. In fact, one of the things Reynolds told me is he felt like the braking was the most realistic with some of the updates being made recently to iRacing in the past 5 years for road course racing compared to the real world.
Oh, for sure. It's one of those things that the updates recently seem to have kind of negated a little bit of just wheel hop. It was a little tricky to try to get hard on the brakes. It's a little easier to do that now without wheel hopping. But while these top two battle it out, let's go on board with Jordi Lopez and take you around the Circuit of the Americas. You can kind of talk us through a lap here at this track, Justin.
Well, Jordi Lopez Jr., first of all, having to go up through the gears, and this is all the way uphill to the top of the gears. You have to shuffle your way down to about first or second gear to be able to rotate your way enough to around the edge of the curves. Then you make your way in towards the S's, which are very difficult with the swing. Just swing it around the curves. Then you have to be able to swing it smoothly around the turtles right here. You hit these turtles, it can lift you off the ground, where you have to be able to be precise as well as hit the apexes each and every time evenly. Lopez Jr. missing a bit of those apexes that time. Then you'll reach the run towards the middle straightaway after this complex of corners right here, where you smoothly try and turn it to the right, use as much as you can a bit to the right, just avoid the turtle to the left. Then start to shuffle your way through the gears once more than 100 miles an hour, and that run towards the middle straight. You have to send it deep to the brakes, use the rumble strips on the right side as your braking mark. Then try and diamond the corner, try and get as close as you can to the rumble strip to the left side, then power your way back up through the gears to fourth gear in one of the longest straightaways here on this racetrack. This is where many drivers in turn are able to make passes with deep braking here for this section. This is Sector 3 coming up to the arena section of the racetrack. You have the border markers to the right side of the racetrack to keep things in mind. Utilize a bit of that turtle to the left side to help rotate the car. Then you approach turn 13 in the pylon to the left side. Try and utilize a bit of the turtle to the right side. Then this is where it gets very difficult, because this is a no braking mark area where you're essentially going by the feel, essentially, with how things flow. Get yourself quickly to the brakes, quickly back through first gear, back through second gear to be able to rotate your way back to this final section of the arena section. Then this is around towards 17, 18, all the way up to 19, where it can be very deceptive. Drivers have been willing to use a lot of runoff area here to be able to pull away. You can see, for example, Lopez Jr. doing exactly that. Then runs across the green AstroTurf, and then in the final corner, you break it back down, quickly rotate your way to the left, and that's a way around Circuit of the Americas. Not easy, but in turn, if you do it right, you can put on decent lap times. The downside is Lopez lost another half a second or so in the course of that lap.
A lot of words there, Justin. I just realized I was pressing the wrong talk button. But nevertheless, thank you so much for taking us around. That is a long lap here. That is roughly 2 minutes, 16 seconds, or at least that is, of course, if you're our top 2 or 3 competitors, about a 2 minute, 16-second lap. Like you mentioned, Lopez lost a little bit of ground to the 62 that time, about 3 or 4 tenths of a second. Is what he lost to Reynolds that last trip. So Lopez falls a little bit further back, and just goes to show you how much you're having to think about when you're making a trip around here. I know personally that turn that Reynolds just went through, turn 10, that downhill, you're really on the edge. You're thinking of shifting into third gear there, but you're still having to carry a lot of speed. It's probably one of the more difficult sections for me personally. It's a very fun corner to try and navigate, but it's very tough as well. One thing that's not going to help Justin is the fact that Jordi has lost the draft here. You'd think here with these long straightaways or with the corners. There's not a ton of draft here, but there actually is a substantial amount, especially down this back straightaway. Very, very long section to be able to try to use that draft if you can. So Lopez trying to do all he can to catch him, but unfortunately just doesn't have it right now.
I think he's completely burned up his stuff. That's the thing. As Lopez Jr. has been sliding around twice this lap, has had major slides, I think his chances are done for. You can see another drift right there. He has to come down soon. We are in the pit window to make it on gas.
We are in that. I know a full run in a cup car here is 20 laps, so you'd have to imagine here you probably can't go more than that, maybe a little bit less depending on the fuel mileage here. And we're actually going to see the driver come down pit road. You see the VRS Logitech Altus Esports Chevrolet make the trip down to the pit lane, and that is going to be a very common here. You're going to see a couple of guys make that trip here in the next couple of laps, and hopefully they make pit road entry and decide not to try and turn in at turn 20. That is one thing about this road course, is the pit road entry here is very deceiving. You're not used to it. There's not a whole lot of room, and even after you make the turn, there's still a little bit of ground to speed up and try to make a little bit of time before you actually hit the marker of which you will be measured by the pit road speed limit. So this is a difficult pit road entry for these drivers, and very important. Obviously, you don't want to speed, make any mistakes, anything like that. As we see a nice little battle here going on. Jonathan Oates pulling right up to the back of Will Norton. This has been going on. These 2-3 guys have really been close for the last handful of laps. Norton able to make his way by, as Oates is going to have to try and chase him down. Oates has been hanging out in the top 5 pretty much all night long. Has been slipping just a little bit. Nate Stewart had a little bit of a runoff earlier. He was, of course, up in the top 4, started in the 6th position early on. He's fallen back to 8th. Jacob Fisher has moved up in the 9th as he continues his march through the field. And, of course, Ethan Corder hanging out on the edge of the top 10. Of course, that is with one driver who came onto pit road, so they'll eventually cycle back through.
You can see just how much grip difference there is between old tires and fresh tires with the pass on Lopez Jr. Passing by Fisher, I should say. So this is now to where it's similar to that call you talked about a bit before that happened in the Pro Invitational race, where you pit a little bit early and hope to gain some time because the amount of difference in fall off was up to 2 seconds. Is it going to be enough for Lopez Jr. to close up to the lead? It all depends. Is it going to be where he can defend later on? That's going to be the tough part, is hoping things equalize out on that tire fall off close enough to where Lopez Jr. is able to get the clean air and try and hold on. It's going to be difficult. Reynolds is in.
Blake Reynolds has decided to make his trip down pit road and nearly split this run that we've had evenly in half. Of course, we did have a full course caution at the drop of the green flag. And, you know, Justin, I think this is one thing that is going to perhaps influence some drivers to pit a little bit earlier. You see Jordy Lopez staying on. He's going to try and use that fresh tire advantage, I'm sure, at the back later part of this run. But the one thing they did not have to deal with on Wednesday night was the potential for a full course caution. If a caution were to come out and you're Jordy Lopez right now, you're in a really bad spot because you're going to have to come down, get fuel, get 4 tires, and you're going to be placed behind every driver that has already made their trip down pit road. So I do think the one thing that changes that strategy a little bit for this race is the potential for that full course yellow to come out. And if it does, Reynolds would cycle through to eventually be the race leader. So he's good even if that does happen.
Well, he's already cycled ahead of Lopez Jr. by the distance I thought that may come into play, 1.2 seconds. So Lopez Jr. not able to make that undercut work the way I think he wanted. He needed it for another couple laps, I think, to try and fully take the race lead. But now it's going to be the challenge to see, did Lopez Jr. learn to try and save the tires for the later half of the run? The track temp is starting to pick up a little bit now. As we're past 9 a.m. in sim time, it's up to 76 degrees Fahrenheit, so it's getting hotter and hotter as this run goes on, as the 2 top drivers, or top teams I should say, in the owner standings continue to duel it out.
And every degree that we go up is going to make a pretty significant difference when you talk about how flat this track is. Not a lot of banking. Of course, even on the ovals, you and I both well know that it makes a pretty big difference, even on the high-banked ovals, to have a little bit of temperature increase. But when you get to these flat tracks, a lot of braking, you're sliding around a lot, it makes a much bigger difference on tracks such as these when you do have that happen. So I believe that last time it wasn't Jordi Lopez, it was Christian Peterson that elected to stay out. Excuse me for getting some of the Logitech Altus esports cars confused, as a big lockup there has given away a couple of spots there, as I believe that was Robert Dorman right in front of this traffic is able to come out. We're going to see this time by Christian Peterson will make his way down pit road. Matt Danson pit a little bit before Blake Reynolds, so you see Reynolds going on by. He's got the fresher tires by a couple of laps there, so the 62 going to try to cycle through in front, and I'm sure Danson trying to do all he can to hold him off with his teammate close in tow, trying to chase Reynolds behind him. But we'll see now. I believe we're about cycled out here. Will Norton has still not come down pit road. Neither has Jonathan Oates, but pretty much everyone else, at least here in this front battle, has pretty much made their way down pit road.
And Blake Reynolds seems to be very dialed in. Compare that to Will Norton, where there's been several times where it seems like he's just lost focus, where you cannot lose focus on a road course like this because you miss your braking marks here, especially with it being hard to visualize some of those marks. You're off into the tire barriers or off into the grass. So Blake Reynolds has been able to keep that focus dialed in all race long. So that's where it's all come into play for Reynolds to be able to grow this gap, as Danson has let by Jordi Lopez, but the damage is done. Lopez Jr. has already fallen back to the distance he was before, as one driver goes very wide, Justin Malillo, to let by the race leaders and says hello to the sand trap.
Yeah, Malillo has had an adventurous evening here at the Circuit of the Americas so far, and unfortunately for him, that may continue, hoping for a little bit of attrition in this race as we continue to still click along a couple of laps. Pretty much only one new retiree. It is Aaron Mulrooney Jr., who has decided to pull off and head back to the garage, so Malillo able to move forward into the 39th position with that recent retirement. But otherwise, one car hanging on to the lead lap barely, as Cosme Ineshu has lost the front clip on that race car. So definitely had some issues there for the 84 as he loses that clip, has the number a little bit back on that quarter panel. We talk about moving numbers around. I know I'm probably one of the few people on earth that doesn't mind quarter panel numbers, if it's done right, I may add. But Cosmo moving that number back, paying homage to a couple of road course schemes here.
Yeah, it looks like an okay paint scheme for today, but it's the road course flair, right? Trying to mimic a supercar. As a caution flag just came out, caution is out for an issue in the arena section.
Wow, this is really going to change up the makeup of this race as the caution flag, the full course caution being thrown. We'll have to see exactly where it came from. This may have worked out for Matt Danson, who before the caution came out was able to make his way onto pit road. Actually, that yellow flag may have been waving a little bit sooner, so we'll have to see how that's scored. If he entered a closed pit, he couldn't really avoid anything here at this racetrack. You know, you're kind of fenced in on that pit road entry, but it looks like perhaps the 46 of Robert Dorman. We saw him struggling going off track. He was trying to give as much space as possible to some of these competitors, and it looked like he and perhaps the 51 car had a little bit of a coming together through, it looks like, about turn 16, turn 17 is where this may have taken place.
He had already missed that section, tried to let by Short easily, and then I don't think he was expecting this. Short slows up a lot for the corner, and Dorman just runs into the back end of him, sends both of them sliding to the bottom of the racetrack, and it looks like things were going to be okay until a few seconds later, Justin Malillo comes in and crashes into him, pushes into the racetrack, and that's enough to trigger the caution flag and add a third car to the incident.
Well, I mean, that is a very tough section we saw. I don't know if it was in that exact corner or if it was in 13, 14, something like that, where pretty much Ray Alfala was in the exact same situation, parked there to the inside, was trying to get backed up and got going before Ashton Crowder came through with nowhere to go and ended pretty much both of their nights in that race. So it's a very tough section of the track. You talk about blind right-hand corners. You can't really see when you're coming around there, so anybody that's parked in the middle there, very tough to see. You see Malillo comes through, makes that contact. So that's what we were talking about with these guys wanting to make their pit stops early in case the full course caution came out. You didn't want to be stuck on the lead lap, and you see them still running at race speed. That is everybody trying to catch up to the pace car that will eventually pick up our race leader in Jonathan Oates, I believe, yes, who has finally caught up. We're looking for the pace car here, and I'm sure they're trying to sort out official timing and scoring where that pace car is. And you see the pace car finally catching up there, and the entire field going to have to make their way up to turn 2. This is going to take a while. We're going to see everybody racing around here almost at full speed to try to catch these cars. But now the question becomes, do you come down pit road if you're Blake Reynolds or Jordy Lopez, or do you stay out and keep the track position? This is going to be an interesting call.
It's going to be very interesting indeed, because there is a massive gamble here on coming into pit with just a couple laps in. We've talked about how the tire wear is going to be massive here in this race, Blake, but you also have the risk of being shuffled as far back as the top 20. So it's going to be a big-time balancing act, I think, to decide, okay, do we risk putting ourselves in traffic with the drivers who haven't pit yet as well? Or do we try and risk it with the older tires? I wouldn't be surprised to see Will Norton stay out, for example. He just came into pit. The others, I'm not quite sure.
I think if you're back in the pack, you really have nothing to lose. I think this is what can make this race really interesting here. If I'm Reynolds or Jordy Lopez, I mean, Reynolds actually did an amazing job that last run, only fell off about 2 seconds. So he did a marvelous job of maybe backing off the pace just a little bit compared to what he was running in qualifying. I mean, he ran a 2:12.96 in qualifying earlier. Now, of course, we do have a track that is heating up throughout the course of the race, but to really only have 2 seconds of fall off throughout that last run, of course, we didn't really get a full first or second lap in because of the caution that came out on lap number 2. But nevertheless, I think if you're Reynolds, you just want to keep the track position here. You'll stay out, and eventually 7 or 8 laps into the run, you see that tire wear pretty much even off. So if I'm Reynolds or Jordy Lopez, who have clearly shown that they are the fastest cars in the field, I stay out. But if I'm 20th on back, you really have nothing to lose. Why not go after fresh tires? And maybe if you're in that 7th to 8th range, that could be what you need to go after these top 2. So they'll have a lot of time to think about it as you know, we'll still pace around here for a little while. They get to play through all the scenarios in their head, talk to their crew chiefs if they have any on the box. We get to see exactly what the decision is going to be. Now, Jonathan Oates, he really has no decision. He has to come down. He's not going to be able to make it to the end. But we'll see how many come down with him. It's going to be interesting to see.
Going to be very interesting indeed. And we'll have to wait and see how this all plays out. It's going to be the biggest question.
That's going to be the question indeed. And then, again, we're still pacing around here through turn 16, 17, and 18 as the FTF Grand National Series presented by Bar Visuals rolls on here from new territory. Not new territory necessarily for road courses or tracks we don't often see on the NASCAR circuit. We've run the Daytona road course. We've ran Road Atlanta already at this point in the season. So no shocker to see these guys out here and running on a road course. Just the first time that we visited the Circuit of the Americas in FTF competition. As they work off turn number 19, we'll see the 73 duck into pit lane. And what we're all looking is who is going to follow suit. So the 73 is in, Reynolds, Lopez, and wow, it's going to be a lot of cars that are going to make their way in. So Reynolds, Lopez on really just 2 or 3 lap old tires, they are going to come in and pretty much bring the entire field with them. Only a handful of drivers seem to want to stay out here at this juncture. So interesting call here. Pretty much everyone in lockstep coming down pit road.
As expected, Will Norton staying out. Arnold Columbia has taken the same gamble we've seen earlier this season by staying out for a pit stop. Everybody else has elected to take the tires. There's a lot of sets of tires in the pits available. So they have this flexibility to be able to do so. They don't have limitations of sets to worry about for today. But Jonathan Oates, great pit stop off and away. And Lopez nearly beat Reynolds off the line.
Almost beats him off, but first off of pit road. And really got to give credit to Jonathan Oates, elected to play the strategy to stay out as long as possible, was able to get the yellow that he wanted, and now because of that, he's going to be able to gain 6 or 7 positions out of it. So works out for Jonathan Oates with that strategy. But speaking of strategy, a couple cars did not come down. It is Will Norton and Arnold Columbia who will have control of the field when we come back. We'll go side by side here as we pace around, but when we come back, the last 12 laps of this race coming to you next.
iRacing is a sim racing game that combines a true-to-life racing experience with an online community of virtual racers from all around the globe. iRacing offers a multitude of officially licensed cars and tracks, laser scanned with millimeter accuracy. Their car models and mechanical systems are based on real-world physics, engineered in cooperation with manufacturers and race teams. Their skill license system ranges from rookie to pro, ensuring members are always pitted against those with similar skill sets. Members are able to sign up for a weekly race series, compete in time trials, host a private race with friends, and participate in racing leagues created and run by the community. With over 170,000 members, iRacing works in partnership with renowned motorsports organizations like NASCAR to deliver virtual races based on the real-life NASCAR Cup Series, as well as many other series on the NASCAR ladder. iRacing also features team racing, providing a variety of options for members to create and manage their own teams. Race with friends or real-world teammates in full-length endurance events like the 24 Hours of Daytona, Spa 24, or the Bathurst 12 Hour. Additional partners include IMSA, World of Outlaws, Supercars, and IndyCar, allowing members to race in their very own Indianapolis 500, Bathurst 1000, Chili Bowl, and many more iconic events. This is iRacing, delivering the most authentic racing experience short of getting into a real race car. Sign up today at iRacing.com.
Back with you here at the Circuit of the Americas. Blake McCandless, Justin Prince along with you as we continue to roll on here. Road course racing, the FTF Grand National Series presented by Bar Visuals. A couple of upcoming events we want to let you know about here on STN is, of course, this Friday night, FTF 1 returns. It'll be at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, so we'll look forward to that. The Delara IR01 in action next Friday night. Of course, next Saturday night, we'll have coverage of the FTF Grand National Series presented by Bar Visuals live from Lucas Oil Raceway, IRP. I love that drag strip that's right across the street. Very special for the McCandless family, but nevertheless, I've always loved the short track there as well. So that will commence next Saturday night, 10 p.m. Eastern, right here on STN. Monday night, May 31st, the FCRL continues on from Charlotte. And then, of course, Thursday, June 3rd, eNASCAR iRacing Road to Pro qualifying series from Martinsville. As Will Norton not going to waste any time. Going to get us back going under the green flag, try to get all of that lead that he can up into turn one. As he continues to rock it on. Here comes Blake Reynolds. Big move up the inside, 3 wide. Norton locks up. He goes wide.
Completely missed the braking zone as they're wrecking coming off of turn one. Several cars scattering around. Nate Stewart, several others.
A couple of cars getting together, and we continue to race under the green flag. The pace car pulled off, so of course this is not a yellow, even though in Sin the yellow flag is being displayed at the moment, but nevertheless looks like we're still going to continue with this battle amongst your top three. Arnold Columbia has escaped, and no, now we get the green flag. We're just in the middle of turn 10, but Arnold Columbia able to to escape there is oh boy, that's a lot of black flags cleared for race control there. Interesting situation there with timing and scoring, but it's sorted out. And now contact made between Blake Reynolds, Jonathan Oates, battle for second. And now the caution is thrown.
Wow.
Oh, one car flipping here into a tight. That is turn 5. Or no, it's turn 11. That's David Cabrera. This machine flipped through turn 11.
Add that to the Splash and Go graphics flip count, I guess, as my goodness, what a sequence. You have the trouble in turn 1, you have an intriguing start, and then you have the reason for the caution flag here, where Cabrera ended up getting, I think, a loose as Waterworth got loose, as you'll see right here. Followed him along eye for eye, and the hit is hard enough to the side where it flips Cabrera over. Wow.
Man, that is vicious. And of course, the splash and go flip count being triggered right there is, again, that is a tight section, especially under cold tires. Waterworth gets loose, and Cabrera just could not check up in time. And then obviously Waterworth hard in the Armco barrier, and Cabrera just nowhere to go. A stunning visual here at Circuit of the Americas to have someone go over like that. Ryan Williams had to go wide, locking up. He went off the track to avoid it, went into the grass to avoid the flipping 36 car, and basically arrived right just short of the gravel there in turn 11 before getting going back straight. So again, interesting there. I guess technically we were under the green flag, had a little bit of a timing and scoring issue that got sorted out, but you see Williams right there, crazy ride there through the grass. But this is where this race can really flip, Justin. We talked about, of course, cautions breed more cautions, and the fact that we may not be able to escape each other as we're all under a blanket now. It's going to create these situations where, you know, we may see a string of yellows being thrown these next couple of laps.
It's not how drivers want things to fare, but this is an attrition-built race track at times where it doesn't necessarily cause massive incidents. I mean that in terms of the mistakes end up building to where drivers go off the racetrack very easily. So we're at that point where drivers are starting to know that it's points paying time soon. It's going to be tricky in terms of needing to run. And once we get a run, I think we're going to be in a good shape.
I think you're exactly right, but when do we get that run and how long does it come? That's going to be the question. I mean, look at Arnold Columbia. He was able to get through, hold the race lead. Caution saved him, so even on the old tires, Arnold Columbia is your race leader. Will Norton had a massive lockup getting into turn 1, so he completely missed the corner. He fell back to the 4th position. So it did not work out for him. And now, of course, we open up this can of worms again, where do you pit? Do you try to, you know, get those fresh tires? Are they that important that maybe even after a lap or so that you try to get them? That's going to be the question here.
I don't think you do necessarily with just about a lap or so on the tires. I think if we get a run of a couple laps, though, it may open up the floodgates. By the way, Justin Malone, the lucky dog. But to get back to the point, I see a lot of the drivers staying out with the track position. A lot of their beds have been made at this point. If we get another one, though, we may see drivers take it.
Oh, absolutely. They're going to take anything they can get to try and get an advantage in this race. Of that, you really have no doubt if you're a race car driver, you're going to do everything within your power to try to hold that advantage. But just kind of in a weird holding period right now. These cautions, we are at a road course that takes 2 minutes and about 15 seconds to cover when you're up to speed. So obviously these cautions are going to take a little bit of time, allows these drivers to really decompress, cool down, get a little bit of a break, of a stretch in, if that's exactly what they need. But the other thing, Justin, is I think the reason we saw times at the beginning of the first run of the race that we had that were so low is because of the fact we had a full course caution, and the tires wear under caution here because, you know, that pace car, it stays at 45 miles an hour no matter what corner we're going in. So when these guys have to slow down beneath 40, that pace car is still hauling the mail. So you will have a little bit of natural tire wear take place under caution. I think that helps a guy like Arnold Columbia, who obviously he's a little bit on older tires, but is waiting for that lap where they pretty much even off. I think it helps him in this situation to have these guys pacing around under caution.
It definitely does, because while the heat cycles are going to be also something to factor in, it's to where we're approaching closer and closer towards that equalization point. And these tires are definitely going to build up a couple percentage points of wear on them by pacing around like this with how big this racetrack is. But we'll see how things play out. As expected, most drivers staying out, and some of them already trying to warm up their tires as they're getting ready to come down the front straightaway here with the one to go.
Oh, and it looks like a majority of the field bypassing the opportunity to come down pit road here is when we take the green flag. There will be 10 to go. And actually, I'll correct myself right there. A couple drivers that are outside the top 15 have elected to come down pit road and get 4 fresh tires. Maybe a lot of these cars I see, Justin, too, repairing a lot of damage. So kind of no shocker to see that. And also they'll take a bit of the tire gamble. Tires mean a lot here. So having fresh ones will make a bit of a difference. But also in our Made Madness, we have a pretty tight battle going on. You can actually see them side by side right now trying to get into the final 4. Andrew Schwartz, Lucas Plosel. They'll restart nose to tail, just one position apart on this restart. So a lot of these guys battling for a lot here, but the 45 and the 67 car, they'll restart side by side here to try to move forward to the final 4.
I believe Schwartz and Quarter that are battling one another, where Quarter's been in a better position throughout this entire race all day, it seems, today, where Quarter does have a good amount of road course experience. Schwartz can struggle at times in the road courses, but as long as he keeps the car clean, I think there's the chance to gain a lot of track position for Andrew Schwartz. Has damaged that front splitter a little bit, though, so it's going to affect the handling just a little bit, as well as that quarter panel damage for the tires.
Yeah, a little bit of damage here will go a long ways, at least in certain sections of the track. Again, everybody knows with these Xfinity cars on iRacing that they are very aero sensitive to any damage that you get. Now, that's not going to hurt you at a majority of this racetrack, but that long back straightaway from turn 11 to turn 12, that's pretty much going to be exactly where it hurts you, but that's pretty much the only area that, you know, you will see a significant difference because of it. You see the field all still just kind of riding in line here, all just waiting to get through. It's going to be a fun one. We know that for sure. The last 10 laps of this is going to take a while, but I think you give these guys, this is typical FTF, you give these guys enough laps to figure things out, you throw a late caution, and everybody gets confident. Everybody stiffens up those elbows a little bit the next time they get into the corner. So I wouldn't be shocked if we're still not going to see the end of the contact here for tonight. That much I think is certain.
I think so as well. I think there's the chance of bumping and banging, especially when we go back into turn 1 once more. But we'll have to see where, in particular, how Blake Reynolds handles things, because he said it very aggressively before. And one driver's reporting an issue. Brent Pancari is having a technical issue right now. Has had to pull over to the side of the racetrack.
Well, you hate to see that. And by the way, correction on that is Ethan Corder and Andrew Schwartz that will take place in that Maid Madness battle. Lucas Posel, he already advanced, so not having to deal with anything. But Brett Pancari right there looks a lot like Boris said, looked earlier today, kind of limping along here on the back straightaway with an issue. It was sad to see then. It's sad to see now as Pancari trying to just nestle that thing back up to speed. Not sure if he's going to be able to get back in the line before they drop the green flag, as they're already working here towards the back half, towards the stadium section of this racetrack. So when we take the green flag, there will be 10 to go. Arnold Columbia and Jonathan Oates will start on the front row. I think Blake Reynolds, though, there in row number 2, Justin, inside line, prime position to try to make that move into turn 1, try to make it stick if he can.
He tried to make it 3 wide on the last restart and made it stick. I wouldn't be surprised to see him do it again if he times this up perfectly. But it all comes down to how much space is given and how especially drivers like Jordi Lopez or Will Norton right along him and behind him take this start as well. It's going to be intriguing. Don't be surprised to see the dive bomb coming into play.
We'll see if it does. Pace car is in. Columbia has control of the field, and just like he did last time, not going to wait as they'll cross the start-finish line, and it looks like that time the green flag will come out, but Reynolds has a huge run here down the front straightaway. He's going to wait patiently, but I see some lockups coming there. Big lockup there from the 818, and Matt Danson's going to go around right there at the exit of turn 1.
That's Christian Peterson, in fact, in the 30 machine. 2 cars involved. We stay green. Tough break for CP after getting all those positions. But now, Columbia doing a good job. Not as good of a run, though, for Reynolds on that restart compared to last time, as Oates to the inside.
Oates to the inside. Arnold Columbia looking for the race lead. And I swear, one more time, if I call a Logitech car the wrong one again, I will just quit this altogether. But Arnold Columbia is still able to hold on to the race lead as they work up through turn 10, but Reynolds has now made his way by around the outside for second. Oates going to send it on the outside. Big lockup from Columbia. Here comes Reynolds. He doesn't get as good of a run off as the 39, but we'll see what type of run he can build here down the back straightaway. Jacob Fisher started this lap in 10th. He is up to 4th already. So big moves here from Jacob Fisher. You see everybody blocking, making moves. Reynolds going to try to make it on the outside here in turn 12.
Bit of a left front lockup now for Columbia. Reynolds with the better run, though. He's got the chance for the switchback.
He's going to try to get it done. He has the preferred position. Tyler Gary into the back of Jordi Lopez further on back. They're 3 wide. They're sliding around. But up front, Columbia still trying to hang on over Blake Reynolds. He's going to get it done. More contact made behind them. They're still going to sort it out. And now Blake Reynolds finally takes control of the race lead. Oates going to try to make his way by Arnold Columbia. But boy, are they racing hard back here for about the 6th position. Lopez was in some heavy contact back there. Alex Kolonix, Tyler Gary. Big moves being made right here, including Ethan Corder, who was a part of that big lockup in turn 1 that spun the 30 around.
And the driver who got the worst out of it, I think, was Jordi Lopez Jr. in position to potentially keep up with Reynolds. Now significant back-end damage. It's going to hurt him. Has lost already several positions back to 6th spot. All while Tyler Gary trying to gain some of the positions he had lost on that start. Still, though, what a drive for him for the back of the field after not setting the time in qualifying. A plus 30 now.
Oh no, big lockup in turn 1 from Nate Stewart, and somehow they gave him room. They're 4 wide entering turn 2. I don't know how that's going to work, but Stewart locked it up big. Nearly sent Peterson around again. Now Peterson going to get in the back of Naraki as they work through the S's. One car spun in front of them. Off into the S's. That was Tyler Gary, I believe. They're able to sort it out, but man, vicious action back here. Naraki hanging on. One car in front of them is around. It is Arnold Columbia. The old tire's not working out. He's going to merge right into traffic, though, here in turn 9. This is insane.
A nightmarish lap for Columbia now after getting turned around. Here is now. It's an absolute hornet's nest starting to build up again. How about 3 wide just about?
Oh my goodness, there's no way this works. Naraki into the back of Columbia. There's just no way they make it out of here alive. Peterson in front of this pack. Somehow they don't spin. Naraki contact in front of him. Ryan Williams went all the way, used all of the racetrack way on the outside to try and make a move by. And I don't know how they didn't crash, and they're banging doors behind him. Ryan Williams, Chris Wetz. Don't think that that's going to work out here as they get into turn 12. Williams going to go around the outside past the 71. I mean, he just went and doored him on the straightaway. I'll have to wonder how this works out here. Locked up in front of them. You see the smoke around the Nate Stewart and Arnold Columbia machine. Poulin's off wide. Just a bunch of action happening here. They're 3 wide in front of them. This is just madness.
Absolute craziness here, and we still have 8 to go this time by with all things fairing out, and more cars around into the sand trap.
We'll see if this brings out a yellow flag. Looks like for the moment it's not. It was the machine, I believe, of Lucas Plosel. Yes, he goes around. Contact made. No caution flag being thrown for that incident. Big stack up here off of turn 20. Will Norton down the front straightaway. He's duking it out side by side, which again, with no front clip now on that race car. Bit of a battle going on here behind Ethan Quarter, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. Big lockup from Nathan Rabideau as they get into turn 1.
And Will Norton trying to go for a massive send to Dime in the corner there. That was not going to stick right now. It's going to be tough for Will Norton, though. Now with that no front nose clip to be able to keep up here with the speed, especially down that back straightaway. Still, though, Evan Rice, where did he come from? We haven't talked much about him all race. Able to go up 27 spots now to put himself in position for a top 10.
Yeah, Rice has done an amazing job navigating traffic, and he gained a handful of spots on that latest restart. I believe, and I guess I could correct myself if I'm wrong. I can go back and check later. I believe he's one of the cars that came down pit road that last time, and clearing the traffic and getting those fresher tires seemed to be working very well for the 98 Chevrolet as he's able to pull away from Alex Kolinix there. And a big move here. Oh, boy. Dalton Cowden, big contact there with Warren Rosario back here out of turn 11. And Rosario, I believe, lifted after that to give him the spot back. Columbia has just not had a good go of it after that spin. He has just continued to plummet through the field, so the strategy not working out for the 39.
And that car's definitely been beaten up a lot here with some of this contact too, which doesn't help him at all. But one of the drivers who did pit under the last caution flag, Warren Rosario, is right on the doorstep of joining this scrap as well from the top 20. Had lost a couple positions this lap. Just trying to find a way to go around as Cowden gets a bit loose.
The 117 will slide just a little bit there in front of this pack. Again, 4 cars all in a line. Columbia still trying to hang on, doing a nice job on those old tires. He's got the graphic designer for Junior Motorsports and Ryan Williams directly behind him running that aptly sponsored Hellman's machine. And then, of course, Warren Rosario, a bit of that was involved in that contact with Cowden earlier on in the lap. Big lockup out of Cowden. Now they're going to be 3. They may look 4 wide here for just a moment. They're 3. Williams on the bottom, Columbia in the middle, Cowden on the top. How does this sort out here in turn 1?
I don't know if this is going to sort out prettily here as Cowden, I think, backed off here. Was Rosario with the massive sender to take advantage.
And out Columbia, and Williams going to make contact there. Columbia trying to stiffen up those elbows there as they work through turn 2 as he went and gave the 28 a little bit of his door to get through the S's right there. So just great battling going on here, and you have to imagine Columbia still not going to be in a great spot. And now Columbia goes around in the S's. Columbia spun around, and it just goes from bad to worse here for Arnold Columbia.
Absolute disaster, and Ryan Williams also now slow. I believe Williams had gotten to the back end of Columbia, and now Williams seems to be struggling with a massive issue here as a result of that contact, just struggling to get that car to turn.
Yeah, he is. He may have thought he was responsible for that, so a gentleman's agreement here to try to let him by. But that was mainly a result of Columbia hitting those turtles and just getting all out of shape there in the S's as he was trying to hold off that entire battle right there. So that kind of separates them right there. But around Tyler Gary, we mentioned him making his way forward a couple of times. He was able to just pass Evan Rice and a handful of drivers. So Gary is on the march forward after getting by the 97, the 30. He's made a couple of spots, and now Kolinix goes wide.
Everybody's starting to make major mistakes here with the hot racetrack. It's getting hotter and hotter, and it's not just now the temps at this point. This is getting to where it's very tricky and slick for these competitors, and you can definitely tell that these drivers are starting to struggle with that grip more and more as this run goes on, as Will Norton continues to drop backwards now with the damage.
And Norton not having a lot of fun with that damage. Ethan Quarter able to go by him. So Quarter getting the best of that May Madness battle with Andrew Schwartz. As Schwartz rebounding nicely here, though. Back in the 13th position. I believe he was a car that came down pit road that last time, but he's got a long line of cars in front of him. You can see at the top of the hill as Norton works through turn 2, you can see probably 7 or 8 cars all in a line right there chasing the 26 of Tyler Gary, who goes a little bit wide. Here comes Christian Peterson, going to try and make a move, but just not able to do it before they start the S's.
Remember, CP was one of the drivers turned around before the start, so that was a little bit close to be able to get to the back bumper. Seems like CP just a little bit more comfortable to be able to get through the S's compared to Gary right now. Just wants to poke his way on by. Great move to get to the inside.
And that's exactly how you do it there. Right through turn 9, getting into turn 10. If you can complete it, that is a big move right there. So Peterson able to make his way by. I think Gary kind of let him have it, knowing how much pace that 30 has had all night behind them. Kolinix into the curb, right into the turtle there, and gets right in front of Nathan Rabideau, who by the end of this straightaway, that draft may be enough to try to make a move into turn 12.
We'll see, not close enough quite yet. They are matching the mile per hour down the straightaway, it appears this time. As more
bit wreck in turn 11. Rich Jameson spun around by Lucas Plosel. Got into the back of him, spun around the 86. But, that is going to bring out a caution. Looks like they had scattered away. But that brings out the yellow flag. So, boy, is this going to change up everything here with just a couple of laps to go.
And that involved 3+ cars. That's the reason for the caution flag, believe there. As I believe Waterworth, as well as one other car, was also involved in that sequence. This is now going to change everything and make this intriguing.
This is going to change everything, and we'll show you exactly what flipped this race on its head here on our bar visuals replay. And it was Lucas Plosel, a pretty innocent lockup right there. Gets him square into the left rear of the 86. We'll see it right here. Just looks to the inside. He was apologetic over the radio. Immediately came back out, but you can see 2 cars spun around, and so does the 86. And by rule on road course at FTF, it's been a rule for a very long time. It's 3 cars are involved. That's the yellow, or that's what is necessary for a yellow, and road course caution has been the same since I was racing here back in the NR 2003 days. If 3 gentlemen are involved in an accident like that, they're parked on the track, that's what a full course caution is going to be warranted. So not what Blake Reynolds or anybody up front wanted to see. Reynolds had really opened it up. He was up several seconds on everybody else at the moment of caution. So it is not what the 62 wanted to see, and with how much tires matter here, this is going to be a big call. Not just for fresh tires, Justin, but you have the potential, of course, coming up, maybe for green-white checkers after that as well. So do you want to pit now and then hold out? What do you want to do? There's just a lot, I'm sure, that's going through these drivers' minds. You take 2 tires. A lot of things can happen here, and they have so long to think about what they want to do.
At the very least, I think you come down into the pits because the fall was starting to kick up and the amount of laps turned on. This is what I was talking about a little bit earlier on in the broadcast. to take 2 tires is a massive gamble, though, on a road course, Blake, because it really will impact your ability to turn with the counter corners tires, if that makes sense. So it's to where, do you think you can make it stick by taking just 2 tires? I don't know if you want to take that gamble here. I wouldn't be surprised here in FTF competition to see a couple drivers think about it here.
Well, I mean, what do you have to lose at the end of the day? I know a lot of these drivers firsthand. They're not even competing for points. They are just out here for the final result. They're chasing that checkered flag, or at least to get a lot better than they were. I don't think a lot of these drivers came out tonight expecting to win, especially if you've been running 20th on back the whole race. I don't think that's the expectation, but if you can use a little bit of strategy to maybe get you a top 10 if you've been a 20th place car, to at least try to improve your day, I think this is the opportunity to do that. Of course, it's FTF. We've seen time and time again throughout this series' history, the drivers are willing to make that risk, to take that risk rather, to try and gain those necessary spots. So we'll see what's up these drivers' sleeve. Of course, with the potential of green-white checkers on the horizon, we could be in for a long one, or we could be in for a relatively short one. I believe we'll get the green flag when we take lap number 34. So the scheduled distance will be 3 laps to go when we get the green flag. So how much do tires matter if you're in Blake Reynolds' position? If you have that lead, do you stay out and everybody else behind you pits where you're going to be ailing on old tires? A lot left to be decided, and honestly, Justin, I'm not surprised to see. I bet Blake Reynolds going to give a lot of space to this pace car, or at least just very much look in the mirror before he commits to his decision.
Yeah, this is going to be huge. And you mentioned staying out as a possibility. You've seen how it worked out for Columbia. So it's not going to be easy to make this decision. So we'll have to see how these drivers go here now as they approach that entry. Here we go.
Decision time here. Reynolds looking like he wants to stay out. He may get drugged down pit road, but he's going to fake it, and we're going to have a split decision here. Reynolds stays out, Lopez stays out, Berge stays out, and it seems like a lot of drivers behind them going to come down pit road, so much more pitting than staying out. This is really going to shuffle it up here.
Cowden staying out, Schwartz staying out as well, Ben Hort staying out after damage from before. I really am not sure about this, because I think the gamble is from Reynolds that there's going to be so much traffic that the drivers of fresh tires have to go around that they won't be able to get to Reynolds. I don't really understand this decision here, but I think this is going to be difficult to be able to hold on for 3 laps. If it becomes a GWC situation, it's more likely that it gets holding on. It looks like nobody took that 2-tire gamble except for Ryan Naraki, by the way.
No shocker there. I know Naraki is always one of those drivers that if there's an alternate strategy, you can guarantee that he's at least thought about it, if not done it. So Naraki going to take advantage of that and gain a handful of spots to just for, if he can hang on for 2 or 3 laps, that's a big net positive. So can't really blame anybody who looks at this as an opportunity to try and gain a ton of spots. Now, what's going to be interesting here is how well do these guys on the old tires. Of course, we know Blake Reynolds, he has had the pace today that nobody else has possessed. Ran his quickest lap of the race to 13.959, which I believe at the time is the fastest lap of the race that we've had that has not encountered any off-track incidents, fastest legal lap by iRacing standards. Of course, you saw in real life today, they were using the paint, they were using the runoff, they were doing whatever was necessary to get through the corners. That is not necessarily the case here. Of course, that green runoff you see right there on your screen to the right, you get 2 tires on that. That will disallow that fastest lap in that case. So Reynolds, who's been running 214s, 215s all afternoon long, does he have enough in that Toyota to hang on old tires, or will we see somebody that came down pit road that last time just storm through this field Justin, this is where turn one's going to get really crazy. You got guys on old tires who will be locking up. They'll be sliding around on cool tires. You'll have guys with a lot of grip. I feel like this is where, if we're going to get GWCs, it's all going to start right here on this restart in turn one.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see 3 wide absolutely at this point with some of these drivers. This is going to be a huge, huge, huge restart for the 3-lap shootout. We'll have to see how things play out for our competitors once they go into the corner and once they try and roll through. It's still going to be a tough call for Reynolds. I think he's just trying to gamble, and right now at this point is hoping that there's too many cars for the drivers on fresh tires to get on by. It will be close, but I don't know if he's going to get there fully. Whoever can break through all this traffic if we get 3 laps.
And that's a big if. Of course, if we get to the white flag, we will not have a caution. So really, what Reynolds, and I'm sure what many of these drivers that stayed out are looking for, they want 2 laps to go on by with no issue. If they can just get to that 3rd lap, they can try to sort things out from there. But with everything on the line, we've seen a lot more aggressive moves taking place over the course of the last run. So you'd have to think that that is only going to amplify as we get to the really the pay window's open for these drivers, so they are definitely going to full send it here without any second thought. So Blake Reynolds going to restart as the leader as we work through turn 19. We've seen the leaders going very early in this restart zone, and have to imagine that Reynolds is going to take advantage of that as well. He'll have to his outside Jordy Lopez, who was running second for a good majority of this race. Andrew Schwartz stayed out. He's in 4th. Joe Berge as well is in 3rd. And we'll see here 62 actually going to not quite just gas it up, waits until the exit, stacking it up behind him in the corner, but green flag is out. 3 laps to go here at Circuit of the Americas.
And a great launch for Jonathan Oates as well to be already able to get by a couple of the drivers as Jordy Lopez with the massive send for the race lead with the squeeze.
Oh, man, Reynolds able to hang on, though. He has the preferred line through turn 2. He's going to try to hang on here. Holds it off over Lopez. Big wreck in the back of the field. Evan Rice is involved. They're still going to run under green at this point. Several drivers, another one spinning off as they work through turn 2. But Reynolds hanging on. Another wreck here in the S's. Oh, several cars involved. Ryan Araki is spun around. They are still green. Reynolds up front. Lopez in second.
And this is getting really chaotic, and there's the 3rd cars getting involved right there with Linaire went into the Armco, and this changes everything.
I think that was a long time coming because they pretty much wrecked in every corner leading up to that caution flag. It started here in turn 1 with several cars. Adam Sweet, Evan Rice involved. I believe it was really kind of the 55 where he kind of jumped the curb. It looked like Evan Rice in a separate incident got turned there by the 93 of Nathan Rabideau. Or actually, no, I think Evan just got loose. Yeah, that was the case there. But they were going 4 wide through there. Then they spun into turn 2. One guy went off. It was Casey Nimitz who spun around. And then getting through the S's at the exit of it, several cars were parked in the middle of the racetrack. We saw Alex Kolonix involved. Ryan Naraki was parked in the middle of the racetrack. Several drivers had to avoid him. Jake Poulin, I believe, got involved. Was it that 0? Yes. No, that was Dylan Smith who got involved in that. So a lot of calamity happening there, and it was finally enough for them to bring out the caution. And now we see one, if we're going to get a green-white checkered, and if we are, what's going to happen after that?
It's going to be intriguing, I think, right now, because if we get more laps, I think Reynolds is in trouble. If it ends up getting to where it closes out, Reynolds is smiling. So it could work out either way. I think we're about to find out here, as right now Reynolds and Lopez Jr. are really fighting hard there before as we do get our first of 3 GWCs confirmed.
Oh boy, this is whoo. You may want to strap up, get your popcorn ready. You may, if you haven't gotten your popcorn ready, you could probably walk over to the pantry right now warm it up. Maybe you could even use the stove, and by the time it all popped, you could probably still settle in and get here before the end of this race because, man, 3 green-white checkers. I would not be surprised, Justin. I know you never want to jinx it as a broadcaster, but I just, after seeing everything that we've seen tonight, what we even saw in the Coke Series race in turn 1, would be shocked if we're going to be using all 3 at this juncture.
I wouldn't be surprised if it being a possibility with how crazy the S's were on that last restart. So there is that opportunity and chance this all comes through. So this may work out in Blake's favor if it gets towards that point and there's enough restarts to where there's not enough time for the drivers on fresh tires to get through it. But Jonathan Oates is in a great spot here if they get to that white flag, I think, because he's been great on the restarts the past few or so. If he can pass his way on by the drivers on old tires quickly, he may have a chance at Reynolds for the final lap.
He just might. I know that Lopez there getting into turn 1 was definitely going to try to do everything he could to get by, and obviously they went side by side into turn 2. Reynolds was able to get that preferred line before they had to go single file for the S's. Joe Berge and Andrew Schwartz on those old tires, guess what? They ended up keeping it in that second row. So the old tires working out for your top 4. How many on new tires are we expect to see up here? And you know, we really look at the top 10. A lot of drivers still stayed out. Dalton Cowden, who he's had a really, really adventurous night here tonight. He runs in the 7th position. So this is just one of those classic late race FTF. May see a couple of yellows. You're just going to have to hope to survive. And, of course, again, that is the rule that 3 cars involved in a single incident, and not just involved, 3 separate self-spins. That's not enough to bring out a couple of yellows. We saw that. Rice spun on his own accord out of turn 1. Contact was made with 2 other drivers, but it was only a 2-car incident. So that's not enough to bring out a caution. It has to be 3 cars all triggered by the same contact, incident, whatever you want to call it, that bring out the yellow. So if we don't get that by the time we get back to the white flag, obviously we'll race things through there. But we've seen a lot of close quarters here at turn 1, a lot of big sins, a lot of lockups. I think we're probably going to see more of the same.
I think we might see that, as well as to the back of the field will go Evan Rice, but it's going to be a big time restart coming up here. And this is going to be very important for all our competitors to get it done clean if you want to see the white flag. If you're Blake Reynolds, you're hoping that the attrition continues to build up. You're hoping that the drivers on fresh tires cannot get their way around Jordi Lopez, Joe Berge, and Andrew Schwartz in particular, especially with Jonathan Oates already up to 5th. It's all going to be kicking off here in just a few laps. It's going to be fun.
It is, and while the lights are still on the pace car, we will, and the fact that I got to throw some clothes in the dryer, we're going to go throw it side by side as we continue coverage here for the first of 3 green-white checkers for the FTF Grand National Series presented by Bar Visuals. We'll be right back.
We've been waiting for this moment. Generations of innovation all coming together in one place. A pedigree of more than 70 years of NASCAR Cup Series history, from the past to the present, from Petty to Earnhardt to Elliott. Today, there's no more waiting. The future of NASCAR is now. Drive the next-gen cars today on iRacing and step into the next generation of racing.
back with you here from the Circuit of the Americas. It has been a fun one, to say the least, here in the FTF Grand National Series presented by Bar Visuals. Blake McCandless, Justin Prince in the booth, as well as Zach Johnson, as always, doing a great job down in the virtual production trailer. We've seen the dominance of Blake Reynolds really be the story of tonight. We've seen a lot of great battles in the top 20, even outside the top 30. We've been covering it with you all night long. And, you know, Justin, when we talk about road courses, we usually think things get pretty strung out, but honestly, this has been a very entertaining race, battles throughout. It's one thing that I think we even saw play out in real life as well, that this track, when you're battling traffic, it is hard to make passes because you pass a guy, they cross you back over. The way these corners work for stock cars, you can lean on each other. It makes for very competitive racing when you're right with somebody, and we've seen that play out here tonight quite nicely.
Yeah, it's been difficult to pass, but there's been some fun battles in said passes. And right now, if you're Jonathan Oates, you're hoping you get the passes done easily. Already a couple drivers indicated over the radio they are not making things easy. They are going to be racing as hard as they can, especially the drivers still in old tires, to keep their track position. So this is going to be a dogfight up here if you want to get yourself to Blake Reynolds at this point.
Oh, it is. There's going to be no question about it. A lot of these guys, again, Blake Reynolds obviously not competing for points, is competing for that owner's title, though, and we have seen, as far as the owner's points are concerned, those two cars in particular dominating this series. Of course, that's the 62 Bar Visuals Toyota and the 99 Logitech Altus Esports machine that tonight is typically piloted by Michael Cozy Jr., but tonight's a different junior. It is Jordy Lopez Jr., who is making or keeping that 99 up front. We've seen it time and time again that those two cars have really been the story, regardless of the racetrack that we're going to. There's several drivers that sharing them as they go after the Owners' Championship here in FTF competition. As far as the drivers' points are concerned, well, it's a much different story here in GNS, with a lot of these drivers who compete on the Cup Series side not able to compete for full-time points in this series. So much different. We've seen Ethan Corder and Sean Butler dominate the points for that. And of course, the playoffs looming as we get towards the summer months. So as we work through here, slow section, working through turn 17, approaching turn 18, and getting to turn 19, we will have our first green-white checkered attempt with Reynolds in the lead, Lopez to his outside, and as we have mentioned time and time again, all those cars waiting on fresh tires to try and pounce on their opportunity to win this race. Safety car is off. Reynolds in control of the field, and you'd have to imagine as soon as he gets in a straight line, he is going to go, and he does exactly that as they stack up behind him. Reynolds able to get away, but here comes Lopez, but he's going to have trouble on the inside of him, or a car next to him. Joe Berge going to try to get into turn one. Lopez shoots it wide. Berge able to get through cleanly. Everybody behind them so far, so good. Nathan Rabideau, though, into the corner deep, and that is a big wreck, and we have a caution.
My goodness. Some of the drivers sent scattering as this is going to re-rack them and stack them once more. Just several drivers went off into the sand trap off the racetrack, as I believe it was Will Norton who started with the contact, but Nathan Rabideau just pile drove in trying to dive bomb two different cars and just drove way too quick into the corner, right to the side of everybody.
My goodness. I mean, he's doing his best 97 impression from Tuesday night, as, my goodness, just went low, try to get around the 51 and just completely missed the apex of the corner. We'll see it right here on the restart from our helicopter cam. You can see running down the front straightaway here. Going to look to the inside of the 51. He's about a car length back. He's going to dart to the left to try to make that move. And I mean, that is a mirror image of pretty much Logan Clampett the other night in the Coke Series race, where he saw somebody in front of him, he went left to avoid them, and I think just in all of that, kind of just missed the breaking point by a pretty significant margin. And of course, you could see several cars off in the trap, and Yeah, that's going to bring out caution flag or green white checkered attempt number 2 here, and get a look at it one more time. That 93 just was not going to be slowing down.
Yeah, that was very, very aggressive, and as to be expected, the back of the field will go Nathan Rabideau from that, but now I'm still keeping my eye on Jonathan Oates, who's going to be up on the high side now as a result of this for the upcoming restart. He's got an air opportunity to try and sort things out coming up, and he's got the opportunity to try and pass by Jordi Lopez as a result of that line and Joe Berge. If he times up the line, I think he still has a shot, but he needs the laps. That's the key word. He cannot afford calamity in turn 1 once more.
No, he can't. Running out of chances, running out of opportunities. And of course, at this point, Justin, we mentioned the tire wear that happens under caution. As much as you want to try and gain that track position, if you're one of those drivers on fresh tires, at a certain point, those tires are going to still begin to wear under caution. That is going to work against you at some point. So I know Reynolds doing all he can to save tires. He's right behind that pace car riding at 45 miles an hour. Everybody else just trying to get sorted out. But again, with what we've seen, when the best drivers at this activity were doing the same thing in turn 1 and in turn 10, I know I started off this round of green white checkers predicting that we may see 2, we may see 3. I think that prediction still holds, especially after what we saw right there from Nathan Rabideau. All it takes is one mistake.
Absolutely. And I wouldn't be surprised with the points on the line to see these drivers make these bold moves. And for Jonathan Oates, you may have to go for even bolder moves than what he's been able to stick so far to be able to get up to Blake Reynolds. If you're Blake Reynolds right now, you are currently dancing in your seat saying, this is going the way I was hoping, because with him staying out, he might have been hoping there's going to be not enough time for drivers to get up there. And guess what? With the caution flags, there's currently not enough time for you to get there because, well, you're behind a pace car.
That's exactly right. And we haven't had anybody leave this race for quite a while. That's another thing that I think may keep us in this position for the rest of this race, is the fact that Gary Waterworth, of course, we remember he was involved in that accident that flipped the 036 car over. He is the first car that is laps down. He's 5 laps down. He's on pit road. Robert Dorman, who brought out our caution at lap 19, is currently running 7 laps down, but he is still on the racetrack. You can see there he's trying to catch back up to the field and having an interesting go of it right now. David Cabrera is right now on pit road. He's 9 laps down, and I believe he still has some required repairs to go after that vicious rollover that he did entering turn 11. So Cabrera is there, and that's pretty much it. We still have 35 cars on the lead lap. We talked about Justin Malillo. He was having a real rough go of it. He's still on the lead lap and can technically survive with a little bit of attrition still perhaps left to go. So we pretty much have all the horses still in this race, Justin. Not a whole lot have exited when we had 45 start the race. We still have 35 that you could say still have a shot to win this thing.
Yeah, all it takes is one major incident, and then bam, you have a replication of Tuesday, where there's definitely some drivers still frustrated from that, and the frustration has been boiling over on the radio and over these caution flags. So the tension is starting to build up with these drivers. And as Blake Reynolds says hello to the pace car once more, you can't afford to stay tense here at this race. If you get yourself wound up and overly anxious and overly angry, then you're going to drive overly anxious and you're going to drive overly angry. And guess what happens? You end up bumping into somebody, and then you get extremely anxious and extremely angry. And then you take it out on your steering wheel. But in all seriousness...
Oh, Tyler Gary just spun. Tyler Gary just spun under caution, and now he's going backwards.
Well, he might have just heard the message and said, you know what? I'm going to go and have a nice, fun old time here.
Yeah, it looks like he's just out there for fun. I saw it out of the corner of my eye. Somehow I was riding along with Justin Malillo, and I saw somebody spin out of the corner of my eye. But definitely think that was I don't know, interesting way to heat the tires. I know there's been a lot of conversations about Q cheese in the service. Maybe that's the new one. I don't know. Well, we'll see if it gets protested. But well, he was coming down to pit road. It didn't matter anyway. So Gary will come down pit road. Believe we'll get the 1-to-go signal from the pace car this time, as really the only drivers at this juncture that are going to take a trip down pit lane are going to be guys who are very much in the back of the field that may have a little bit of damage to repair. And I mean, what's the harm in pitting if you're not going to lose any position? So a couple of drivers elect to make that decision. We are 1 to go right now as Reynolds, and now, as you mentioned earlier, Joe Berge going to be up there on row number 1.
It's going to be fun, and I'm still keeping my eye on that second row with Jonathan Oates. He's going to be on the outside, which is going to be the tough part, but he's been able to send it better on the brakes and be able to rotate through the corner more efficiently as a result of those fresher tires on the start. If we get a long enough run, though, it's the question of, can he get to Reynolds in time?
Yeah, that's the question. Can he get there? Do we have enough green to get there? Or if we get another caution, of course, there's the potential that, you know, this thing ends under yellow. And actually, I think it is an FTF rule. If we get to that third green, white checkered, we're just going to race it out. Don't think that they will allow this race to end under caution. I'm pretty sure that's it. That's an FTF rule. So at the very least, we will see this race end under green. Now, whether we or it'll end under green in some fashion. Now, whether we see that this attempt or next attempt is to be seen, but perhaps could this be a preview of the FTF Cup Series tomorrow night? Well, guess what? You get to find out tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern, live on Bottom Split. The FTF Cup Series will make its debut at the Circuit of the Americas. A lot of big names going to be in that field, so it should be fun to see that battle. And of course, if we get a late restart there, well, perhaps this is a good preview. But 8 p.m. tomorrow night, live on Bottom Split, should be a fun one to round out your weekend of not only Circuit of the Americas action, but FTF action as well. So working down the back straightaway here, still have about half the track to go before we get the restart going again. Blake Reynolds, Joe Berge, your top two. Jordy Lopez Jr., Jonathan Oates in fourth. Andrew Schwartz in fifth. Jacob Fisher quietly lurking there in that sixth position. Ben Horst done a nice job to position himself in seventh. Christian Peterson in eighth. Dalton Cowden, who's running in the top 10. He runs ninth. And then Ethan Quarter still trying to get the best of that May Madness battle, but he's behind Andrew Schwartz right now, who runs in fifth. So Quarter going to have to make up a couple of spots to advance to the Final Four in that.
I'm ready for what could be a fun restart here. But it's also going to be where the aggression's going to be high. It's going to be where drivers are going to be not afraid to use those bumpers. This is going to be a huge restart, though, once more for Blake Reynolds. If they get it clean, Sector 1 and 2, then it's gloves off if you're Jonathan Oates.
Absolutely. Gloves will be off as they'll work here through the slow sections. Turn 17, really tight zone that I'm assuming we'll see double file when we come around, or if we get around to this point. It's a tough section, a couple of apexes that you have to hit here. And of course, into turn 19, tough section. You can cut a little bit of that curb. Not going to do too much damage, especially in this Xfinity car. Is a little more lenient than the Cup car was earlier this week. And we'll see the pace car make the dive to pit road, hopefully earlier than Clint Boyer did, as Reynolds and Joe Berge, your top two. Lopez close in tow. He has the inside line on this restart. What will we see here is Reynolds able to get away. Great restart for him. Great restart for Lopez as well. Berge able to cover for second. See if we can make it through turn one this time.
And Jonathan Oates with that top line wasn't able to get the good launch, but nearly into the back bumper of Lopez Jr. He sent it so hard.
And let's see, can we make it through? A little bit of contact further back in the field, but looks like for the most part, we've managed to get our way to turn 2. Side by side, they go for second, and Lopez going to have to give way to Berge, who's into one of the turtles, completely misses the other section of the track, so Lopez going to go on by. Berge will let him go. They're still racing up through the S's. They're a little bit 3 wide for about the 10th position. One car blasted through. It was Jake Poulin. No, excuse me, it was Robert Dorman. But so far, so clean.
And this is going to be exactly what Blake Reynolds wanted to see. They are fighting too hard for these drivers to make up 2 seconds. Berge going to let by some of these drivers now on the high side, on the right side of the racetrack now. Jonathan Oates lost way too much time, though, more than 2 seconds. I don't think you're closing that up in time.
Oh, and we got one car that's way out of shape. They're 4 wide. They're exiting turn 11. Will they be able to sort it out there? As Oates trying his best to chase them down there. They're going to be 3 wide. John Palmieri, Tristan Hagenstein, several cars under a blanket here as they head into a heavy braking zone here in turn 12. And, oh, man, I don't see this working out, but somehow they did it. Somehow they did it. 2 wide, they leave there. They're going to be 3 more contact in the back. Ryan Naraki's off the track, but that's a single car spin. Won't bring out a yellow flag. Another car's around. It's Jack Painter. Another single car spin. 3 wide here as they get through. Oh, man. Jake Poulin on the high side. Cosmin Yaneshu punts Tyler Gary off the racetrack. That's still a single car spin. Can we get around to the white flag?
This has been absolutely hectic as Blake Reynolds looking nice, calm, cool, and collected at the very front of the field. Going to come across that start and finish line and lead by 1.1 seconds.
Wait. Timing and scoring is saying we're at 2 to go right now. That's a little awkward, but okay. Blake Reynolds right now still your leader. Jordy Lopez able to escape with second. Jonathan Oates slowed up for third. And I mean, are we going to be, that was a green white checkered. Are we going to be going one more? I don't know. I mean, nevertheless, Reynolds still driving away with it, but it probably needs some clarification there.
Yeah, either way, Blake Reynolds is in a perfect spot. He's been dominant all race. He's led a majority of the laps. He's been able to make his way around the racetrack with ease. He's one of the few with minor damage around this racetrack. This was a great run overall, no matter how you slice it for Blake Reynolds in this one.
It is one car off the track. It's Keith Sherman who made an adventure through the grass, getting into turn 11 or just before turn 11. Another car goes off. It's Dalton Cowden. He's able to get his Chevrolet back onto the racing surface. For the most part, they've spread out. There's a little bit of a 3 or 4 car battle for around 20th, but up front, Reynolds, Lopez battling for what could be the race. Not sure, but we'll treat it like it is. I don't think it'll matter too much. I don't know if Reynolds can even be chased down at this point, but it's Reynolds first, Lopez second, Oates hanging on for third, Peterson looking for fourth, or looking for third rather, and Jacob Fisher in fifth. So
an intriguing way to end off this race, but either way, Blake Reynolds has actually been able to grow the gap and be the quickest car on the racetrack. This is incredible. Despite the much older tires, he's been able to just pull away from the rest of the pack.
He's going to be able to do it as off of turn 20. Believe this will be the checkered flag for Blake Reynolds. And will he keep going? This is interesting. So Reynolds, does he have one more lap around, or? Yeah, it looks like he hasn't stopped. So I guess white flag in the air. One more trip around for Blake Reynolds.
Either way, I think he's got this, as CP has actually caught up to Jonathan Oates to take away third position.
And nice job there from Peterson, able to take third on the green-white checkered and able to make his way by. Not sure if he's going to have enough to chase his teammates, though. Lopez went wide, misses one of the turns in the S's. He hit one of the turtles, so Lopez may be in danger here of losing second. Sure, he'll have a timing penalty for that, so he'll have to give up that gain time, and Peterson on those fresh tires may have enough to chase down his teammate in the 99.
And we'll see how much giveaway there is from Jordi Lopez. There was a bit of leeway from those drivers in RTP action when they felt like someone's got a bigger run, but we'll see with that 99 needing owner's points to keep up with the 62. We'll have to see how aggressively Lopez Jr. fights it.
Again, this is all way behind race leader Blake Reynolds, who has really checked out, but Peterson's pulled up within about a car length and a half. Lopez can probably afford to stab on the brakes just a little bit harder this time and gain up a little bit of ground. He has on entry, but Lopez doing a steady job there on the exit of the corner. Sharp right-hand turn. Let's see what Peterson can do. Lopez doing a solid job here cutting through those corners, and he's going to be able to hang on for now.
Yeah, right now, I think he's got a decent spot here. As long as he doesn't make any major mistakes, I think Lopez Jr. can hold on to second. But for Blake Reynolds, a dominating performance today to be able to pull away this quickly on the older tires and still secure laps more than a second quicker than some of the drivers in the field.
Reynolds did such a good job, and he managed it. He's going to win on a road course again, but further back in the field, made madness last lap. Ethan Quarter has the position on Andrew Schwartz. Is Schwartz going to try to make a move to advance into the next round as they work into turn 20? Not going to have enough to try to make a move at the 818, so winning the race is Blake Reynolds. Jordi Lopez going to be able to hang on for second. Christian Peterson third, and in a nice little battle that came down to the last lap, Ethan Quarter going to get the best of that head-to-head matchup by one position over Andrew Schwartz. But again, a nice job there from the 62 on old tires, able to hang on long enough, and he gets it done.
Very impressive indeed from Blake Reynolds and showing that eNASCAR experience. He's been someone that's been getting better and better on road courses, had a strong run at COTA in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series, and carried that momentum into today.
Certainly did, doing a nice little drift here through the S's as we'll get a look at the full field leaderboard here at the Circuit of the Americas. Blake Reynolds is your winner once again on a road course. Started on the pole and won it out front. Jordi Lopez Jr. finished in second. Christian Peterson rounded out in third to get two Logitech Altus Esports cars on the podium. Fourth went to Jonathan Oates. Jacob Fisher finished in fifth for Space Station Gaming. Nice little recovery for Nate Stewart. Fell outside of the top 10. He finishes in the sixth position. Joe Berge in seventh. Will Norton eighth. Ethan Quarter, again, got the best of that battle over Andrew Schwartz, who finishes in 10th.
Warren Rosario goes off to finish in 11th. Ben Horst in 12th. Alex Kolonix in 13th. Keith Sherman in 14th. Dalton Cowden in 15th. Evan Rice 16th. Jonathan Palmieri 17th. Hagenstein, Sweet, Wets, the top 20.
21st to Lucas Plosel. Dylan Smith was 22nd. Nathan Rabideau was 23rd. 24th to Arnold Columbia. Jake Poulin finished in 25th. Casey Nimitz 26th. Jack Painter 27th. Tyler Gary, late spin for him. He finishes in 28th. Ryan Naraki 29th. And Cosmin Ionescu rounds out the top 30.
31st spot goes the way of Rich Jamison, with Justin Malone recovering from early incidents to 32nd, where he started off the race. Kyle Lawrence Short to 33rd. Ryan Williams 34th, with Matthew Zwack rounding out the lead lap driver. 6 laps down was Robert Dorman with a rough race. 11 laps down, 37th was Gary Waterworth. David Cabrera, after being flipped upside down, 38th. Brent Pancari 39th. Matt Danson rounds out the top 40 after crashing under caution.
41st was Aaron Mulrooney Jr., 42nd, Spencer Ray. Omar Diallo finished in 43rd, Josh Parker 44th, and Wyatt Tinsley rounded out the 45-car field. And having a great run once again. He's on Blake Reynolds 66 on Twitch, but tonight he's the 62, and he put it out front and won the race. Blake Reynolds, seemed like a solid day for you out here at the Circuit of the Americas. And you got your mic muted.
Well, it
There we go.
was a great race, Blake. It really was. As I'm still doing my burnouts here, we're gonna blow the tires off.
Sweet. But all right, just talk about kind of the end of that race, what was going through your mind. I know you had definitely the fastest pace out here in the field today, but you have those late cautions. Did it ever cross your mind whether you wanted to pit or you were just going to keep that track position the whole way?
Well, I mean, we pitted that one time. I pitted with Jordy, and then I basically had fresh tires, but then after that, I just wanted to get another fresh set without a heat cycle on them, and luckily, a lot of people did that. I just blew the engine. Rest in peace. That's Kyle Riley's Billy's gonna have to pay for that. But anyway, yeah, I just wanted the unheat cycled tires. And then we had all those pace laps, so it didn't matter anyway. And then it took me a couple tries to pass Jonathan and Arnold, and then Jordy was still hounding us. So I thought I did a nice job holding everyone off, making passes. I didn't wreck anyone, didn't make much contact, but overall, great race.
Seems like it was. And Blake, we'll go ahead and get you out of here. I know this was a long one, but anybody you want to give a shout out to and thank out there?
Sure. Speed Inc. would allow me to drive this thing every time we head over to a road course or a short track that nobody wants to run. And my teammates that share the car, Kyle Riley, Brian Mercurio, occasionally Kevin McAdams, and we even had a Ryan Vargas appearance at South Boston in this vehicle. Currently leading the owner's points. That's what we're going for. I don't think everyone at FTF for the great work that they do. The rules were very clear in this race, and it made it very easy to understand what was legal, what wasn't. Very well thought out and a very well done race. Can't help for some glitches. And then I will thank you guys for broadcasting. You guys do a great job, and I'm sure this broadcast was quite good.
Oh, well, we appreciate that, and we'll go ahead and let you enjoy it. Congratulations on your win tonight, Blake.
Thank you.
That is Blake Reynolds, and looks like Justin Prince caught up with our second place finisher tonight. It's Jordy Lopez.
And Jordy, first things first, you had a great battle to start off this race with Blake Reynolds and then fell off. What happened in that middle portion of the race?
I guess I wore my tires out like a little bit. I don't know. I've never really gone that far as like a run. So I wasn't expecting it to be like, off the rails. But I tried my best, and I gave it everything I could.
Now, when it comes to this racetrack, what were some of the big challenges of learning the circuit of the Americas and trying to wheel a stock car around the circuit?
So the hardest thing for me was trying to take like those like hairpins, those left-hander hairpins. Since I'm on a single screen, it's kind of hard to see when I need to turn in, and it's just been like a guessing game all race. So that for me was like the toughest to cope with.
Seemed like that today. Anyone you want to thank for how your run went today?
Yeah, sure. I would like to thank Logitech Gaming, Astro Gaming, VRS, Racetech, Cube Controls, Own Live, iLiveries, and just the whole team as like a whole for the like support and just believing in me for me to like do this race. So I gladly appreciate them, and yeah.
Congratulations on the run today, Jordy.
Thank you.
Jordy Lopez finishing in second today, Blake.
Lopez finishes up in second, and he has a teammate that shares the podium with him, and in Christian Peterson. A pretty eventful day. You get spun around there off of turn one late to go, and somehow you still end up in third. How was it from your perspective?
It was a lot of fun. Yeah, we got spun there around like lap 26 or 27 off a restart. Probably could have avoided it somehow, but it happened. And then I think we dropped back to like 25th, and it was just a battle getting back up there. We seemed to do it pretty quick though. We got back to the top 10, it seemed like, in the next 3 or 4 laps, and then we had the slew of cautions, so that kind of helped me out a little bit. But I still think we would have pulled out like a solid top 8 or 6, even if it didn't get a bunch of cautions there at the end. But it was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun to watch up here. There were a lot of battles going on just all over the place. But in terms of just the whole week, because I know this has kind of been a learning experience for all of us, what's kind of been your impression of this racetrack? Because I know opinions out there are varied, but just kind of going through this whole week, learning the track, how has it been for you?
Well, yeah, it's a lot of fun. I mean, the S's, you gotta just, be easy, and you gotta attack it, but, still just be easy and try not to make any mistakes and just be as smooth as possible everywhere. All the technical stuff there, and then just hitting the hairpins is probably the biggest issue, especially on restarts with people, 3 or 4 wide, whatever it is. But it's a lot of fun. I think we should see a good show tomorrow in real life, and yeah, it'll be fun to watch.
Should be. Well, anybody want to give a shout out to out there?
Yeah, like always, everybody at Logitech, all the C Sports. I got to thank Logitech, Astro Gaming, Cube Controls, iLiveries, Own TV, Racetech, VRS, and Sam Blaylock Media. Couldn't do without those guys. And then got to thank my girlfriend for letting me get on here and race at night. Yeah, everybody else watching, and for you guys putting on the show.
All right, Christian, we appreciate it. But, of course, nice solid job there getting P3 tonight.
Thank you.
All right, Christian Peterson brings it home in third. And, Justin, that'll about wrap up our coverage here from Circuit of the Americas. But any final thoughts before we sign off?
Pretty wild race in the mid-pack with some great battles, some great bumping and banging, but in the end, it was just domination from Blake Reynolds. He definitely showed the amount of track preparation he put in for the NASCAR COTA iRacing Series in this race, and the way he was able to wheel it and save the tires, which was the key thing, to be able to drive around the racetrack was exceptional. In turn, an impressive race and a fun race tonight here from COTA.
It was definitely a lot of fun, a lot of action, and I don't imagine that tomorrow night will be any different. The Cup Series race, visiting the Circuit of the Americas after the Real Life Cup Series race, should be interesting to watch as well. So from my broadcast partner, Justin Prince, and for Zach Johnson down in the virtual production trailer, my name is Blake McCandless, where we'd like to bid you farewell and congratulations to tonight's winner at the Circuit of the Americas. Blake Reynolds gets it done.